Right. Good day, sports fans, and welcome to Cricket South Africa's Level 1 umpiring course, brought to you by Western Province Cricket Umpires Association down here in beautiful Cape Town, South Africa. My name is Tom Mokorosi. I am the training coordinator of Western Province Cricket Umpires Association. My co-presenter is Abdullah Steenkamp, who is the head of training of WPCUA. Before we get going with tonight's lecture, I will take you through the meeting protocols, not only for this lecture, but for all of our 7 lectures. Attendee microphones and cameras have been deactivated during the presentation to avoid any distractions. When we get to our questions and answer session, I will activate all of your microphones and your cameras so that we can have a lovely interactive session together, seeing and hearing each other. You can write down your questions in the meeting chat box while we present so that you do not forget your questions. Please keep the questions related to the content that we're presenting tonight, because what often happens is if we get questions that are unrelated, then the meeting goes on forever and we don't get to actually focus on the content that is presented. In our 7th and last lecture, we will allow questions about anything cricket umpiring related. So if you haven't had a chance to ask your question through the first 6 lectures, you can ask any question about anything cricket related in the last lecture. We might go over time during the questions and answer sessions. That's fine. You're welcome to leave at any time. But please do leave your question in the chat box and we will attend to it. And you can watch it, of course, after this lecture. It will be recorded and all of our lectures are posted on our YouTube page. Abdullah will copy and paste the link to our YouTube page as I speak, and you are able to self-study the entire course on your own because lectures will be posted on our YouTube page, usually 2 hours after the end of each lecture. So, what does our agenda look like for the entire course? Firstly, just a reintroduction. I have been umpiring for 16 years and Abdullah has been umpiring for 13 years. As mentioned, he is the head of training and I'm the training coordinator for WPCUA. A special mention to Abdullah for his performance last season. Our cricket season in South Africa runs from September to April. And for the cricket season 2022 to 2023, Abdullah was nominated for the Umpire of the Year award. Unfortunately, he did not win the award, but it was a very prestigious nomination. And then I write at the bottom there under my picture that I am an ICC Umpire Master Educator. The reason that I put that on there is because a lot of people often ask us as to whether our courses are accredited by the International Cricket Council, the ICC. And the simple answer is yes, because Cricket South Africa is a test playing member of the International Cricket Council. All the courses that Cricket South Africa offers are accredited by the International Cricket Council. As an umpire master educator for the region of Africa, I am involved in going into Africa and giving training to associate countries of the International Cricket Council, and there we will be rolling out ICC's Level 1 umpire course to various countries over the next 6 months. The ICC Level 1 umpiring course is half online and half face-to-face. So it is not available to everybody as the Cricket South Africa courses are available to everybody online. So you will have to find out from your regional officer from the ICC as to when there will be a ICC level 1 course in your country. We, as far as I know, are the only country that offer umpiring courses online, level 1, level 2, and level 3, which can be completely completed online. So stick with us and we'll take you places. Where are we going for the next 3.5 weeks? Well, today we're going to have an introduction of the course and umpiring in general, and Abdullah will take us through laws 2 to 5. And then we've got a special guest who is the poster boy for our course, Langton Rusere from Zimbabwe, who is an international cricket umpire. We'll be having a question and answer session with him after we've presented today's laws. And then we will open up the floor to all of you to ask Langton any questions you might have. And then we will also cover the questions in the chat box. That should take us a good 2 hours of cricket entertainment. On Thursday, we'll cover laws 6 to 11. Next week, Tuesday, laws 12 to 17. Next week, Thursday, Abdullah and I will be at Cricket South Africa's panel conference, our pre-season meeting to be aligned to laws and playing conditions for the coming season. So we will not have a lecture on Thursday, the 17th of August. We will have a lecture on Wednesday, the 16th of August. I will be sending invites to every single lecture. We don't use the same invite for all the lectures. We use unique Microsoft Teams invites for each of our lectures. Tuesday, 22 August, laws 25 to 31. Thursday, 24 August, laws 32 to 40, as well as a match preparation presentation to make sure that after this course, you are ready to go out and umpire your first cricket match if you are not already an active umpire. Those of you who are familiar with the law book, you will know that there are 42 laws in the law book. However, Cricket South Africa's level 1 exam does not cover laws 41, unfair play, and law 42, which is player conduct. So we do not cover them in our lectures. However, they are in the presentation that I have sent to all of you. So if any of you have not yet got my course material email, please email training@wpcua.co.za asking for me to send you that presentation, or at least a link to that presentation. It is a very big file with lots of pics and videos, so it cannot be sent as an email attachment. I have sent it to Abdullah using WeTransfer, and all I will do is simply forward you the link to that WeTransfer download for you to be able to download it onto your computer. I'm not sure if it is downloadable onto a phone. You may try and let me know if that is possible. Abdullah, please type in the email address in the chat box so that candidates can get in touch with me if they need the course materials email sent to them. Our last lecture, Tuesday, 29th of August, will be a revision lecture, and it will also be a chance for me to demonstrate how to register, log in, and start answering the online level 1 exam. It is quite a process to register, log in, and start the exam. So it's important that if you don't watch any of the lectures, you do watch the last lecture to be able to do the admin required in writing the exam. As mentioned, our lectures are free and available for everyone on YouTube. However, if you want to write the online exam fees are applicable. They are 300 South African rands for all our domestic candidates. And then for anyone outside of South Africa, it's either 500 rands or 30 US dollars. Best payable over PayPal, and I have also sent the details of payments on that course material email. What will happen on Monday, the 4th of September at 8 a.m.? I will send an exam link email to everybody who has paid for the exam. So you do need to send me proofs of your payment to training at WPCUA until the deadline of September the 3rd at 1800 hours South African time. I do not have access to the bank account where those payments are being made into. So I will need you to send me a proof of payment to training at wpcua.co.za for me to add you to the exam list. And as mentioned, those exam link emails will be sent on Monday, the 4th of September, 8 a.m. South African time. And there will be a 10-day window period for you to attempt the exam up to 5 times to achieve the required pass mark of 80%. Now, I know 80% sounds like quite a tough pass mark, but trust me, we've set up this presentation for you to pass. And also, if you think about it, the best umpires in the world, they want a decision-making accuracy percentage of 95% and above. So in light of that, 80% now sounds rather generous, doesn't it? The cool thing about the online exam is that your results are instantaneous. So whether you get 2%, 20%, or 100%, you will see after you've submitted your last answer, the result that you achieved. And if you got 80% or more, the certificate will be emailed to training@wpcua.co.za, and I will endeavor to forward you your certificate within 12 hours of you passing. Then for those of you who want to go even further than level 1, there will be a level 2 online course starting next year. That's 2 April 2024. Apologies for that typo. And all the level 1 passes since 2019 will be sent details of the level 2 course. So you don't have to ask and keep reminding me to register you for level 2. You will automatically be on the mailing list for level 2 by passing level 1. Of course, if you don't want to be on the mailing list, just let me know and I will gladly remove you from the mailing list. So that is what is in store for us for the next 3.5 weeks and 4.5 weeks if you include the exam window period. So what happens when you pass? Do you become an umpire? Where and when can you start umpiring? Let's have a look at the umpiring career timeline, specifically looking at umpiring here in Cape Town and Western Province Cricket Umpires Association. How do you get to become a panel umpire for Cricket South Africa? And how do you get to become an International Cricket Council elite panel umpire? Well, that's the dream, isn't it? The reality is that there are only 12 umpires in the ICC elite panel. And quite proudly, 2 South Africans sit on that panel. Murray Erasmus and Adrian Holstock was recently elevated onto that panel. How do they get there? It didn't happen overnight. I can tell you because I've been umpiring for 16 years. And if you look at the progress, I'm pretty much only halfway down that ladder. So it all starts today. We're doing level 1, and if you are based in Cape Town and join Western Province Cricket Umpires Association after passing the level 1 exam, you will start umpiring in our club leagues. We have men's club leagues that we officiate in every Saturday, from First Division D. Up next is First Division C. After that is First Division B, and then even higher is First Division A, and the highest men's club league in Western Province Cricket Association is the Premier Division. So you'll see next to the club leagues that you need level 2 to be able to umpire in First Division C and First Division B, and you need level 3 to umpire in the First Division A and the Men's Premier League. Other Western Province Cricket Umpires Association experience you can expect over the years is Western Province age group trial matches, ladies First Division A matches. That would be in your first season. In your second season, if you've got your level 2, you will be appointed to Cape Premier League age group matches and also ladies Premier League matches. This, of course, all depends on your performance. It is not automatic that if you achieve or pass level 2 that you will move up the leagues. We have assessors that go around to all our matches on Saturdays, and they are all former umpires, so they look at what an umpire's performance is and what it should be, and based on their feedback, us as an executive committee and a training department will be able to help develop where we can your progress as an umpire. You do also get marked by captain's reports every single match that you umpire. Yes, they can be biased, but you will find that the higher the level you go, the more mature the captains are, and the fairer that they give their feedback of your performance. So don't be intimidated by captain's reports, and also don't try and suck up to captains for better marks. Just trust in your ability and focus on the job at hand, and you will improve accordingly over the years. Once you get to level 3, things start happening. You will be able to umpire First Division A and Premier Division in Western Province Cricket Association. There's also recently a tournament, a franchise club tournament called the Men's Senior Cape Premier League, which is pretty much the highest level a club umpire can umpire here in Cape Town. So that's something to strive towards, even if you are above the age of 42. So I point you down to the bottom right-hand corner of this page. You'll see that in terms of Cricket South Africa progression through the ranks, if you have not made it to Kaya Majola, which is the boys under 19 week for Cricket South Africa, by 42 years old, unfortunately, you will not progress lower than that line, that red line, under USAB and above Kaya Majola week. So that's just the reality, is that Cricket South Africa will be investing in you as an umpire when you are nominated to girls under 16 week or boys under 16 week, girls under 19 week, or the university's B week. They will need a return on their investment. And obviously, if you are a lot older than 42, then there won't be much time for you to return that investment of Cricket South Africa's back into their system. But it does really get exciting once you get to those, what they call the elite amateur tournaments. Club Champs and Community Cup are seen as two of the highest tournaments that amateur umpires can officiate in. And then my favorite is the Varsity Cup, where you will be exposed to television for the first time. And if you do well in the tournament circuit for a number of years, Cricket South Africa might invite you to write their level 4 exam. And I have to note that level 4 is only available to South Africans, and it's only available to those umpires who are invited by Cricket South Africa to write. So, as mentioned, we as a training department offer level 1, level 2, and level 3 online. We do not offer level 4 courses, nor do we offer level 4 exams. That will be for Cricket South Africa to invite you as an umpire who has progressed through their system over the years based in South Africa. So, what happens when you pass level 4? Valdo Lategan, who is on the right-hand column halfway down this page, he has just passed his Cricket South Africa level 4 exam. And next season, starting in September, he will be umpiring provincial Colts matches and provincial academies matches. He will also be on standby for Division 2 provincial first class matches. When you get to Cricket South Africa's national first class panel, which is where Abdullah and I find ourselves, we umpire Division 1 domestic provincial competitions. Abdullah has been on a couple of South Africa under-19 inbound tours. I have been on a couple of South Africa women's inbound tours. We also have South Africa Emerging and SAA inbound tours. The higher you go, the more high profile those matches get. And then before COVID, we used to have an exchange program, or Cricket South Africa used to have an exchange program with New Zealand Cricket, Cricket Australia, as well as the BCCI in India, where we would send an umpire. Arno Jacobs has been to New Zealand and he's also been to Australia. And they would send one of their first-class umpires to umpire first-class matches in South Africa. But please, ladies and gents, I need to make you aware that there are only 15 of us on Cricket South Africa's national first-class panel, and I think it is now 14 on Cricket South Africa's reserved list panel. So only 29 professional or semi-professional cricket umpires in South Africa. It is a very small pipeline, and only the best make it to the top. As mentioned, only 12 ICC lead panel umpires in the whole world. So what about international cricket then? The top 4 of that 15 that I mentioned on Cricket South Africa's national first class panel, they get to officiate in T20 internationals as well as one-day internationals in South Africa. And huge congratulations to our colleagues Stephen Harris and Lubabalo Duma, who have just been promoted onto Cricket South Africa's international panel. They joined Bongani Jele and Alauddin Palika on that panel. Special mention to Sean George, who officiated in the Women's World Cup final. I think it was back in 2019 at Lord's Cricket Ground. He has finished umpiring and is now a match official coach as well as a match referee for Cricket South Africa. He was on the verge of umpiring in test matches, but circumstances unfortunately didn't work out for him. But he has had a great career and is now a mentor to many of us umpires in South Africa and indeed Africa. So leaving it to the last two on the list, as mentioned, Murray Rasmus and Adrian Holstock are ICC lead panel umpires, and they umpire test matches all around the world. So that's what we all strive for. It all starts today. I hope you are as excited to go through this course as I am to present it to you along with Abdullah. And any further questions about the umpiring career timeline will be taken at the end of tonight's presentation. So another thing that we at Western Province Cricket Umpires Association have started back in 2020, just before COVID hit, is an exchange program for amateur umpires. So the exchange program that Cricket South Africa runs is for professional umpires, but we, operating mainly at a club level, have decided that why not give our umpires a chance to go abroad to umpire club cricket. We had an umpire go to the Netherlands in June of this year, and she had a great experience umpiring not only club cricket, but also Netherlands A against Italy in a T20 international match. We also accept umpires coming from all around the world, and this is what our exchange program is all about. You first need to pass any one of our online courses and exams, level 1, level 2, or level 3. Once you pass your exam, you will get emailed an online WPCUA membership application form. When you fill in that form, there is a space for notes, and you will put in the notes when you will be traveling to Cape Town. And please, ladies and gents, only fill out the membership application form if you live in and around Cape Town, or if you are certain to come to Cape Town during the cricket season and want to umpire with us. So then we will know that you're arriving in, let's say, November 2023. Our match secretary will appoint you to the league that your experience and your qualification warrants. You will have to pay for your own accommodation, and I recommend using Airbnb. And the suburbs which have the most cricket grounds around them are listed. So in your search on Airbnb, you can look specifically for those suburbs. You need to apply for a tourist visa for South Africa, maximum 90-day stay. That's if you are in a country that needs a visa to visit South Africa. And please note that there are some midweek matches, but those are mainly reserved for our elderly umpires who are now retired and don't work. So you will mainly be appointed to matches on Saturdays and Sundays, and you are not going to make a hell of a lot of money. Our match fees range from 175 rands for an under 11 T20 match to 500 rand for a men's Premier League match, 50 overs. We did have an Indian umpire, Daitram Singh Ray, who came from India. He completed his level 1 online course and exam with us in October 2022, and he was in Cape Town in November 2022 and umpired for us for 3 months. He was renting an Airbnb place in Pinelands. which is not one of the suburbs listed on here, but very nice suburb to stay as well. And there is a couple of cricket clubs around Pinelands. And he will tell you, there's an interview on YouTube, which Abdullah is going to post the link of now. He will tell you that he was still working remotely for his company Monday to Friday. So he didn't take leave for 3 months. He arranged with his company that he could work in South Africa for 3 months remotely, which he did. And then on the weekends, he was able to umpire. And before coming to South Africa, he was umpiring mainly friendly matches in India. And when he went back to India after his 3-month stint with us, he was able to join up with his state umpiring association, and he is now umpiring as a semi-professional umpire in India. So that's how this course and qualification can help you, as well as the exchange program can help you as an aspiring umpire in India, where courses are not always easily available. And the struggle to get into an umpires association is quite real there in India. So you are all welcome. We have got plenty of cricket here in Cape Town, South Africa, and we are always willing and able to accept exchange umpires from around the world. You will be paid cash after your last match, less 500 South African rands for membership fees, and amounts for Western Province Cricket Umpires Association clothing that you will be given to umpire in. And lastly, it's best to use Uber to travel to and from matches when you are here in Cape Town. Please note, we do not provide any visa, accommodation, or travel assistance. You need to do all of that admin on your own. Again, Datram's interview describes that process in detail, so please watch that if you're interested in visiting us and umpiring in Cape Town over our coming summer. So that is a hell of an introduction for all of you. I hope it answers some of the questions that you might have had about the course, umpiring, and also coming to Cape Town if you want to umpire in Cape Town. So now let's get into the crux of the evening, which is presenting laws 1 to 5. But also, those of you who have the law book, you will know that the first couple of pages are dedicated to what's called the spirit of cricket. So what is the spirit of cricket? I've done enough talking for a bit. I'm going to play a video to describe to all of you what exactly people refer to when they're talking about the spirit of cricket. And Abdullah, if there's no sound, please alert me, but I'm sure there will be. Thank you.
Well, the spirit of cricket is about going out there, giving your all 100%, fighting against the opposition, but doing it with a smile on your face and doing it with enormous respect for the beautiful game of cricket.
Hold him. Middle stump.
The way you conduct yourself on and off the field, it's about respecting the opposition, respecting the game.
You embracing the game, yes, but also how you play the game, what example you are for young kids growing up.
Big shot, and he's gone as well.
I think the spirit of cricket is about respecting the traditions of what's been before us and those who have been before us as well. And as cricketers, we've got a duty to make sure we uphold those.
You know, you let your skills go to work when you play, but you treat each other and the game itself, which has been around a lot longer than us, with respect, and you hope that you leave it in a better place than what you started with.
Playing it hard, playing it fair, and you're representing your country, and we're very, very privileged. You should cherish that.
It's obviously competitive, no professional international sport isn't, and You would never want to lose that competitiveness from any of the players, because that's what makes the game as good as it is. But it's obviously a line in terms of doing it the right way and doing it the wrong way, and I think it's one of the important things when trying to, I guess, inspire people to play the sport.
Yeah, just conducting yourself in a way that probably your parents and your grandparents would want you to. I think that's probably the easiest way to describe it.
Obviously, after what happened in South Africa, you know, I know those guys really well, and I know that they're not proud of that, and they made a mistake. And unfortunately, that's something they're going to have to live with, because at the end of the day, he made a mistake, but he's still a very good person.
Everybody will make a mistake at some point in their career, but it's about repairing those mistakes in future games and learning from your mistakes. Yeah, there's no doubt about still being competitive and still wanting to win, but yeah, certainly you can win and lose in the right manner.
But I think out of that, you know, we've thought a lot about just respecting the game and everything around the game, and just putting the focus back on just playing the game.
It was a really closely fought semi-final, kind of went down to the wire, and you obviously kind of have a moment of celebration, but then your thought quite quickly turns to the opposition. It's obviously not something you think out or anything like that, it just kind of seemed like the right thing to do at that time.
We lost a test match against England, which was a cracking test match, I thought. Played between two very, very good cricket teams, playing aggressively but playing in the right spirit. And after that test match, we sat in the English dressing room, as the losers do. They go through to the winners' dressing room and shared a beer with them. And for me, it was just encapsulated everything which was good about the game.
I remember the Ashes Test match in 2005.
For me, the most iconic one is the 2005 Ashes, when Freddie Flintoff obviously consoled Brett Lee.
Then he was sitting down, and when Flintoff went to him and shake his hand, I think that's the spirit of cricket for me.
Yeah, that for me is the iconic moment. Kind of the result obviously went England's way, but he took the time to console a bloke that had put in a hell of a performance.
It'll be something like, I want to tell you, I've got great admiration for you and the way you guys played this match.
To show, you know, your respect for the opposition. End of the day, it's just a game of cricket, but I think that's the spirit of cricket for me.
But you actually, together, you sit down together, and that's the spirit of cricket. Friendship.
So let's see what the law book has to say about the spirit of cricket. Respect is central to the spirit of cricket. The law requires you, or the law book requires you, to respect your captain, teammates, opponents, and the authority of the umpires. Play hard and play fair, and accept the umpire's decision. I like that one. This is all because cricket owes much of its appeal and enjoyment to the fact that it should be played not only according to the laws of cricket, but also within the spirit of cricket. Let's have a quick look at an example of the spirit of cricket in action.
Looks to hike that across the line. Andy McBride has ended up on his feet. I don't think they're going to run him out here, and that is brilliant to see. Asif Sheikh, take a bow. We speak so often about where the spirit of cricket has gone in our game, and you see it on show there, because Kamal Singh Irie has accidentally tripped up Andy McBride, and I've got goosebumps here in the commentary box, because that's a touching moment. It was accidental, but he could have run him out here, and Asif Sheikh has said no. He said he's not going to do it because of the spirit of the game. That's your nominee for the Spirit of Cricket Award for 2022 for the ICC. It's that young man, Asif Sheikh.
Massive respect for Asif there.
Here's this moment, the Spirit of Cricket moment. He's clearly tripped him, unintentionally albeit, and Asif Sheikh did the right thing. He had to think for a moment. It's only a split second he has. And what was lovely to see, the turn And he went back, and Andy McBride said, "Thank you very much." He went over and shook his hand, and he said, "You've done the right thing," and equally the same from Sandy Plamachani. Brilliantly led. There's two young, inspirational men, Sandy Plamachani and the man of the moment, Asif Sheikh.
So in a nutshell, spirit of cricket is sportsmanship displayed throughout the game. That was actually a World Cup match in 2022, and so for the wicketkeeper not to run out a batter in an important game shows that he was playing the game with the spirit of cricket at the forefront of his mindset. Us as umpires, we need to encourage captains to play the game within the spirit of the game, but we cannot force captains to withdraw appeals, for example. We can only encourage. I'm going to go through law 1, which is the players, and then afterwards Abdullah will go through laws 2, 3, 4, and 5 before we get into our question and answer session with Langton Rusere. So cricket is all about the players, and that's why law 1 is the players. How many players in a game of cricket? I'm sure you all know. A match is played between two sides, each of 11 players, one of whom shall be captain. So the importance of the captain is noted from the very start of the law book. By agreement, the match may be played between sides of fewer than or more than 11 players, but not more than 11 players may field at any time. So you'll notice that this paragraph is highlighted in luminous green. This means that it is examined in the level 1 Cricket South Africa umpires exam. So please do make note of whatever you see in luminous green in this presentation. There is a question related to all the paragraphs or sentences highlighted in luminous green. So just elaborating on this particular paragraph, quite often when you have a test side touring another country, they play warm-up matches, and the teams will be a squad of 14 players plus minus, and they will want, for example, Australia is coming to South Africa in September for a T20 and one-day international series. So when Australia plays a warm-up match against a South Africa selection 11, they will want to bat as many of their batters in the match as possible and get bowlers to bowl as many of them in the match. So you might end up having more than 11 players batting or bowling, but the restriction here by the law is that no more than 11 players may field at any time. Okay, so that warm-up match scenario would still be within the laws of cricket, because at any given point in time when Australia is fielding, even though they might have 14 players involved in a match, the maximum they will have fielding at any point of that particular match will be 11 players. If during the match, for whatever reason, a side is reduced to fewer than the original number of nominated players, the match shall continue as long as it is possible to do so under the laws or any agreements made before the toss. I want to touch a little bit on this agreements made before the toss. Throughout the law, we will be mentioning playing conditions of specific tournaments. So the laws are 42, as I've mentioned, and are generic to double innings matches in cricket, which means both teams get to bat twice. However, we all know that in a 20-20 match or a 50-over match, in a limited overs match, each side only gets to bat once. So for T20 matches, there are a set of playing conditions, and for 50-over matches, there are a different set of playing conditions. And for test match cricket, there is a different set of playing conditions. In our playing conditions in Western Province Cricket Association, it says that a team must have 7 or more players for the match to go ahead. So 30 minutes after the scheduled start of play, if a team does not have 7 or more players, then according to our playing conditions at Western Province Cricket Association, that team will forfeit the points for that particular match. That is not in the laws of cricket. That is a playing condition that is specific to all matches played in and around Cape Town. This is what a team sheet looks like. It leads us on to the nomination and replacement of players in a cricket match. You will see that there is place for 11 names on a WPCUA team sheet, and there is place for more names which are considered substitute fielders. Each captain shall nominate his or her players in writing to one of the umpires at or before the toss. Very important, highlighted in luminous green. It's in the exam. Can a player be changed after the nomination? Yes, a player can be changed after the team sheet has been handed over after the toss with the consent of the opposing captain. So I'll take you back to the famous Ashes series in 2005. I think it was that particular test match where we saw England winning by 2 runs in the last hour of the 5th day. I'll take you back to the morning of day 1 of that match, where Glenn McGrath, after the toss, he was supposed to be in the starting 11. He rolled his ankle playing touch footy, they call it, in the warm-ups for Australia. So he could not then participate in that match because he was now injured. So his name having been on the team sheet, Ricky Ponting would have asked the captains if he could replace Glenn McGrath with a different player, and the answer that the umpires would have given the captain of Australia, Ricky Ponting, is that we cannot allow or disallow the replacement. You have to get the consent of the opposing captain, Michael Vaughan. So they would have asked Michael Vaughan. Michael Vaughan said, yes, no problem. And I think it was Jason Gillespie who took the place of Glenn McGrath. And I think that was actually the turning point of that Ashes series. So the point I want to illustrate is that you can change a team sheet after the toss with the consent of the opposing captain. Any replacement player shall be considered the same player as the nominated player he or she replaced for the purposes of these laws. So that replacement player can bat, bowl, or keep wicket, and does not have to be a like-for-like replacement. The like-for-like replacement has been brought in for concussion replacements, but if there is an injury after the toss, but before the start of a match, that replacement is made with the consent of the opposing captain and can be any player. It does not have to be a like-for-like replacement. A replacement player shall not bat in an innings in which the nominated player he or she is replacing has completed his or her innings. Okay, so replacements can also happen during a match. They are rare, but law allows for them to happen. But the restriction here is that if Steve Smith has batted and has been out, and as happened in the previous Ashes series, not this one that's just taken place 4 years ago in England, where he got concussed by a Jofra Archer delivery, his replacement Manus Labuschagne could not bat in the first innings because Steve Smith had batted in the first innings and had been dismissed. So his replacement Manus Labuschagne batted in the second innings. Penalty time we will get to in subsequent laws, but essentially if a player is off the field for illness or an internal injury, the law says that any unserved penalty time, warnings or suspension that were on the original nominated player will be inherited by his or her replacement. So if a bowler has been suspended for bowling 2 full tosses above waist height directed at a batter, then that bowler subsequently has to be replaced because of an injury, and the opposing captains allows that replacement. The replacement bowler will not be allowed to bowl because why? The bowler that he or she is replacing has been suspended from bowling for the rest of that innings. That replacement bowler will be allowed to bowl in the next innings. Some of the duties of the captain. Well, if at any time the captain is not available, a deputy shall act on his or her behalf. And if a captain is not available to nominate the players and hand in the team sheet at the toss, then any person associated with that team may act as the captain's deputy at the toss. But at any time after the nomination of the players, only a nominated player, only a player on the team sheet can act as a vice captain and can stand in the place of the captain in discharging the duties and responsibilities of the captains. So including the toss, my apologies. So has to be a nominated player who comes to the toss as well. That is for me for the time being. I'm going to now hand over to Abdullah to take us through laws 2 to 5. Abdullah, over to you, please.
Thank you so much, Tom, and good evening to everyone. I'm kicking off this evening with law number 2, the umpires. What we are covering in law 2 is what are the duties and responsibilities of the umpires in every game. And as Tom mentioned before, we are covering more day cricket in this course. We are not focusing on 50-over cricket or T20 cricket. So when it comes to more day cricket, the umpires, in terms of appointment and the attendance, so before the game, 2 umpires to be appointed, 1 from each end. And again, there's a paragraph highlighted in lime green. There is an exam question based on this paragraph. So law tells us that the umpires needs to be at the field or at the ground at least 45 minutes before the start of each day's play. So if play starts at 10 o'clock, umpires needs to be at the ground, according to the law, at least 9:15, or for the latest 9:15. Are you allowed to change the umpire once the game has started? The law tells us yes. There are times where the umpire can become injured or ill, and then you are allowed to change the umpire. But once you've changed the umpire because of injury or illness, this new umpire to only stand at the striker's end, unless both captains agree that this replacement umpire can take full responsibility in the game. If not, then the replacement umpire can only stand at the striker's end. There are certain things that you need to consult with the captains before the toss. First point, when it comes to balls to be used, there's no discussion when it comes to balls. The governing body of cricket for each competition, they decide which balls to be used. We will get to balls later this evening. In terms of the hours of play as well, again, the governing body, they decide in terms of hours, what time is lunch, how long is your lunch, what times are your drinks interval. This example for the test match. They play 6 hours, 3 sessions of 2 hours each, with lunch being 40 minutes, tea time being 20 minutes, and drinks interval being 4 minutes midway in your sessions. These times were determined by the governing body of cricket for test matches, which is the International Cricket Council. Similarly, in South Africa, for provincial cricket, Cricket South Africa determines the times for the days, as well as your lunches, your teas, and your drinks intervals. Also, before the toss, you need to discuss the boundaries with the captains. If there are any obstacles inside the field of play, like at some school grounds, you'll find rugby poles situated maybe close to the boundary. What are you going to do with those rugby poles? If the ball hit the poles, how are you going to treat them? These things needs to be discussed with the captains before the start of play. The use of covers, how are you going to deal with it? If the batting side will deal with the covers while they're batting. If it rains, they can bring the covers on. Assist, these type of arrangements needs to be discussed before the game with both captains. If there are any special conditions affecting the game, also needs to be discussed. And any of these agreements in point number 1 needs to be informed to the scorers. You need to inform the scorers of any of these agreements. Fair and unfair play. Who decides when play is fair and unfair? Umpires are the sole judges of fair and unfair play. When it comes to the fitness of play, who decides whether the ground or the weather is fit to play? Again, it's solely for the umpires to decide whether they feel conditions of either the ground, the weather, or the light is fit for play. And there's 2 criteria that they take into account. They need to take into account whether it's either dangerous or unreasonable for play to take place. In the next slide, we will do the definition according to the law of what this dangerous is and why unreasonable. There are times where the grass is a bit wet. The law guides us here, so telling us that if the grass are a bit wet, this does not warrant the ground condition being seen as either unreasonable or dangerous. So now to come back to the definition of those 2 words. Firstly, let's start with dangerous. I've said the 2 criteria that the umpires needs to take into account when assessing the fitness of play are conditions either dangerous or unreasonable. So the definition according to the law when it comes to dangerous conditions, is all be regarded as dangerous if there is actual or foreseeable risk to the safety of players or umpires. When it comes to unreasonable, the law tells us the definition for unreasonable is, although the conditions posing no risk to safety, like in point number 2, it would not be sensible for play to proceed, and the law gives us an example. So if there are dust storm going across the ground, yes, conditions are not seen as dangerous, but it is unreasonable. And if you do need to leave the field, you then may leave the field due to this dust storm. The law also guides us when it comes to the umpires and things that they need to consider when making a decision whether the conditions are dangerous. So things that they consider is if the ground is so wet or so slippery, and this wetness deprives the bowler of reasonable foothold. Also, it deprives the fielders of power of movement. They're not allowed to freely move in the field. The conditions are so that the batters are not doesn't have the ability to play the strokes or to run between wickets. If these are the case, then the umpire shall regard the conditions as being dangerous and unreasonable for play to take place. So what happens now when there is a suspension of play due to dangerous or unreasonable conditions? Law tells us that now the umpires have agreed that conditions of ground, weather or light, it is dangerous or unreasonable. If that is the case, they shall immediately suspend play, or they shall not allow play to start or to recommence. If play is in progress and the umpires do not agree about such conditions, they shall immediately suspend play. An example of this is, let's say day 1 of our test match. We're getting close to the end of the day's play at 5 o'clock. These dark clouds hovering, a light is starting to fade. The umpires look at each other, and one umpire feels that it is too dark. It is now dangerous for play to continue. The other umpire feels that it's not dark enough. I think play can still continue. Now, law guides us here, and law tells us if there is no such agreement, you need to suspend play immediately. So in our example, because one umpire felt that it is now too dark, it's dangerous for play to continue, even though the other umpire feels is not able to continue, you need to suspend play immediately. So now you've suspended play, and you now leave the field. Umpires leave the field, players and batters leave the field. Now you're sitting in the dressing room. They tell us it's important that, and it is the responsibility of umpires to monitor the conditions. They need to make regular inspections, and these inspections, players or officials or coaches should not be with them when they do these inspections. And after inspecting the field, as soon as the umpires then together agree that conditions are now not more dangerous or unreasonable, they will then inform both captains that play will resume. So where do the umpires stand? Let's see what the law says. Law tells us that the umpire to stand where he or she can best see any act upon which a decision may be required. Law tells us that the bowler's umpire to stand in such a position as not to interfere with either the bowler's run-up nor the striker's view. So you can see a law just give us a guideline where to stand. Law doesn't tell you exactly, like at bowler's end, there's the stumps. You need to stand 2 meters behind the stumps, or 1.5 meters behind the stumps, or 5 meters behind the stumps. No, all law tells us is where you're standing. You need to be in that position. You need to be able to make a decision, and also not to interfere with the bowlers that run up or the striker's view. So now we've covered the bowlers in umpire. What about the strikers in umpire? Law tells us that the strikers in umpire needs to stand on the onside of the batter, on the leg side of the batter. If the strikers in umpire do need to stand on the offside, the law allows for that. And the reasons for that is sometimes the late setting sun, sometimes field is blocking the umpire's view, like a short fielder or a leg gully. In those instances, law allows the umpire to move from the position on the onside and go on to the offside. And if that is the case, the umpire then needs to inform the captain of the fielding side, the striker, and the umpire that he is now moving to the offside of the batter. This is a bit of practical advice. So many times you'll find a right hand and left hand batter at the crease, and now they take a single. First ball of the over, the right hand batter is facing. He's the ball to fine leg. They take a single, and now the left hand is facing. So at the first ball of the over, the law tell us that the umpire needs to stand on the onside or the leg side. So now they take a single, and now for the second ball of the over, the left hand batter is now facing. So what do you need to do as umpire? You need to move to the other side. You now need to go to the onside or the leg side of the now left-handed striker. So in modern cricket, do umpires change ends, or do they stay for both innings in the same position? Law say yes, umpires needs to change ends. When do they change ends? Umpires needs to change ends after each side has one completed innings. Team A goes into bat, gets dismissed for 200. Team B now comes in and they gets dismissed, let's say, for 250. Now it's Team A's turn to bat again. So law tells us after each side has batted an innings, umpires now need to change ends. So what happens if there's a disagreement or dispute? Law tells us that the umpires, yes, you'll discuss it, and then the umpires then together to make a decision, and then that decision to be final. So once the umpires made a decision, are you allowed to change that decision? Yes. The law allows you to change your decision as long as it's made promptly or quickly after you've made that decision. And if you then change it once that decision is made, it is final. But yes, the law allows it, but you need to be careful for just changing your decision for any reason. Your credibility of an umpire is important. And if you start changing your decision the week in, week out, your credibility will not be good amongst the players. Players will get to know you as the umpire that changes his or her decisions, and they will be putting lots of pressure on you, knowing that you do change your decision. So yes, the law allows for a decision to be changed as long as it's done promptly. But my advice is think long and hard before you go this route, because your credibility will be in question. Signals. We will come to the team that we speak to, we as umpires speak to almost whole day. And that team is the scorers. We as umpires speak to the scorers throughout the day. Yes, it is non-verbal because they are literally 80 to 100 meters from us. So how do we speak to the scorers all day? By the use of signals. So it's important for our umpire to know what the signals are and to make the appropriate signals at the appropriate time. So what are these signals? We will start from top left, which is the out sign. It's a raised index finger above your head. It can either be with your left hand or your right hand, doesn't matter, as long as it's a raised index finger. And that index finger is above your head. Boundary 4 is by waving your arms in front of your chest and stopping. You should stop the signal with your hand in front of your chest. Boundary 6, raising both hands above your head. Open palm facing the scorers above your head. It can either be right hand or the left hand. Leg by, touching a raised knee and facing the scorers. You should, when signaling leg by to the scorers, make sure that you are sideways and not facing the scorers. They'll be able to see you much better if you are sideways when touching your raised knee. Short run, as in picture, as in the last picture on top, on the right-hand side, wide ball, arms stretched out wide, horizontally. Dead ball by crossing your hands in front of your stomach. No ball, horizontal and outstretched, can either be the left or the right. Cancelling your signal, showing new ball to the scorers, and penalty runs. There are two types of penalty runs. Penalty runs to the batting side and penalty runs to the fielding side. Penalty runs to the batting side is, as you see in the picture, by placing one of your hand on the opposite shoulder. So I'm right-handed, as is the umpire in the picture. So the umpire took his right hand and placed it on the opposite side, and by keeping it there, not moving it in any way, just keeping it there, that is the signal to the scorers for 5 penalty runs to the fielding side. How do you signal 5 penalty runs to the batting side? Same signal, but instead of keeping your palm on your opposite shoulder, you now need to tap your palm up and down. And that is how you signal 5 penalty runs to the batting side. How I remember the difference, I go batting, tapping. So I know if I'm signaling 5 penalty runs to the batting side, I need to tap my opposite shoulder with my hand. That is I remember how to signal 5 penalty runs to the batting side. There are other signals as well. Commencement of the last hour. In 5-day cricket, on day 5, in Test match cricket, on day 5, there is the last hour that will happen. If your end of play is 5 o'clock, last hour will start at 4 o'clock. And how do you indicate that this is now the last hour of the game? By pointing a raised wrist with the other hand, as in the pic. There are also level 3 and level 4 conducts, and they have their own signal. If there's a level 3 incident that happened on the field, how will you signal that to the scorers? There are 2 signals for level 3. Your first signal is by putting your hand horizontally to your body and moving it up and down repeatedly. You raise it and you lower it, as in the pic. Your second signal for level 3 offense is by raising both hands, finger spread, shoulder height with your palm facing the scorers. So these are the 2 signals for a level 3 conduct. Firstly, by moving your horizontal hand up and down repeatedly, and then secondly, raising both hands, finger spread, shoulder height, palms facing scorers. Level 4 conduct, also 2 signals. First signal, by putting your arm horizontally and raising it up and down. And your second signal is raising an index finger held at shoulder height to the side of the body. So now you can see why it's important that when you do give a batsman out, whether it's caught behind or LBW, that your raised index finger needs to be above your head, because there's another signal where you raise your index finger, but you only raise it up until shoulder height, and that's for a level 4 conduct. I've mentioned that we speak to the scorers whole day, and how do we speak to them? By using of signals. So the umpire, when there are times where you will give more than one signal to the scorers for of one particular ball. If there are more than one signal, you need to signal them separately, and the scorers need to acknowledge these signals separately. Example, the bowler bowls a front foot no ball. The ball goes against the pad, and from the pad, batter playing a shot, it then goes past the keeper over the boundary for boundary 4. So in this scenario, there will be 3 signals, and you'll give them in order. So firstly, the no ball. You'll signal no ball to the scorer and wait for them to acknowledge that signal. Secondly, you'll signal leg by and wait for them to acknowledge the leg by signal. And lastly, you will signal boundary 4, and you'll wait for them to acknowledge the boundary 4 signal. All signals to be made by the bowlers in umpire, except for the short run signal if it happens at the striker's end. However, when the signal for short run needs to be made to the scorers, it is not the strikers in umpire to signal to the scorers that they've been a short run. Bowlers in umpire needs to signal short run to the scorers and then wait for acknowledgement. When it comes to the correctness of the scores, it's important for the umpire that they consult with the scorers and make sure that the scorers recorded the scores correctly. If there are any points where you are doubtful, go speak to the scorers. If anything happens on the field and you're not sure whether the scorers recorded it correctly, make a note in your notebook. At the next interval, go to the scorers, ask the scorers, over number 8, ball number 4, how did you record it? You can just double check if they recorded it correctly. It's important also for the umpires. So in more-day cricket, so what you do is at every interval, go to the scorers, ask them whether their scores are the same. If they tell you the books are balancing, we're happy, then you're happy, then you can go and enjoy your lunch. So before going to enjoy your lunch, go chat to the scorers, ask them if their scores correspond. If yes, then you can go and enjoy your lunch. Speaking about the scorers, they have a law on their own. When it comes to appointment of the scorers, law tells us that 2 scorers to be appointed to each game. And what do the scorers need to do? They record all the runs scored in the game. They need to record all the wickets that are taken. And they need to record the number of overs that are bowled. That is the 3 duties of the scorers. It's important for scorers to frequently check that their books agree. That's why it's very important for the 2 scorers to sit next to each other in the game. You cannot have one scorer sitting in a car on the south end of the ground and another scorer sitting in their car at the north end of the ground. It's just going to be a nightmare signaling to them. So it's important that they do sit next to each other. This makes signaling easier, but more importantly, if they're sitting next to each other, they can frequently check, and it's important that they do frequently check that their scores agree. And again, important that the umpires, after every interval and at the conclusion of the game, that the scores do correspond. And the law again emphasizing, telling the scorers that when the umpires speak to you by the means of signals, you need to acknowledge each and every single signal separately. You cannot, if they are, in my example I used previously, where there's a no ball, leg bias, and a boundary four, the scorers cannot just acknowledge one signal. They need to acknowledge the three signals separately. Two more laws that we're covering this evening: the bat, and then we're going to the ball. When it comes to the bat, law tells us that the bat consists of two parts. There's a handle and there's a blade. Handle made of cane and or wood. These are the only two materials that the handle can be made of. The part of the handle that is wholly outside the blade, that is just defined as the upper portion of the handle, and it goes into the shaft of the bat. The law also allows for the handle to be covered with a grip. When it comes to the blade, law tells us the blade only to be made out of wood. There was an instance many years ago when Dennis Lilly came out to bat in the 1979 test match, when he came out to bat with an aluminium bat. That was before the law specified that it can only be made of wood. So at the time, there was nothing in the law that prevented Dennis from batting with an aluminium bat. Subsequent to this test match, the law makers actually changed the law, and they brought point number 2 in, where they actually said the blade only to be made out of wood. When it comes to damage of the ball, the law allows for materials to be put onto the bat, like you find those batting tapes that cover the bat. The law allows for such materials onto the bat, but as long as the bat or these materials does not cause unacceptable damage to the ball, the law guides us what is the interpretation of unacceptable damage, and it is any change to the ball that is greater than the normal wear and tear of the ball striking the wooden surface of the bat. When does the ball make contact with the bat? So contact between the ball and the bat itself, the batter's hand holding the bat, any part of the glove worn on the batter's hand holding the bat, and any additional materials permitted. These 4 instances shall be regarded as the ball striking or touching the bat, and the striker is then liable to be out-caught. To confirm again, for when does the law see the ball making contact with the bat? If the ball makes contact with any part of the bat, whether it's the toe of the bat, whether it's the back of the bat, the front of the bat, whether it's the handle of the bat, whether it's the grip that's covering the bat, any part of the bat, the ball makes contact with it, it's seen in the law as the ball making contact with the bat, and striker can be given out caught. Batter's hand holding the bat. For the ball to have made contact with the bat and for the striker to be given out caught, the ball needs to strike the batter's hand that is holding the bat. It must strike the hand that's holding the bat. So what happens if the ball strikes a hand that is not on the bat? In that instance, the law sees it as that hand that is not holding the bat. It's seen as part of the striker's person. So if it strikes the hand not holding the bat, it's part of the striker's person, and you cannot be caught off any part of the striker's person. So the ball needs to go against the hand that's holding the bat. Similarly, the ball needs to go against the glove horn on the batter's hand holding the bat. If it goes against the glove of the striker and that glove is not holding the bat, then the ball is seen as per the law as striking part of the striker's person. It needs to strike the hand or the glove holding the bat for the striker to be given out caught. If the ball, let's say, ricochets, goes against the glove of the hand that's on the hand holding the bat and then goes to first slip without touching the ground, catches out cleanly, batter to be given out caught. Are there limits bases? Firstly, the law speaks about the overall length of the bat, 96.52 centimeters. Bat not to be longer than 96.52 centimeters. So they only give you a maximum length of the bat, 96.52. Cannot be longer, can be shorter, but not any longer than 96.52 centimeters. The blade of the bat, the law guides us, shall not exceed the following dimensions. The width of the blade not to be more than 10.8 centimeters. For many a year, this was the only dimension when it came to the width. When it comes to the blade, they only said the width not more than 10.8 centimeters. So what players used to do, players like the Chris Gales and the David Horners, they had those thick bats with thick edges, and edge would literally go for a boundary 6. So the lawmakers tightened the law slightly. They then added that the blade of the bat, the depth, shall not exceed 6.7 centimeters. The edges also not to exceed 4 centimeters. So when it comes to the blade, these are the 3 dimensions, and the bat is not allowed to exceed any of these. Width 10.8, depth 6.7, and edges 4 centimeters. We do have a bat gauge, like we have a ball gauge. In the next law, when we handle the ball, we'll see an example of a ball gauge. I'm now going to show you an example of a bat gauge. This is a bat gauge that Sean George is illustrating to us. So what we do as umpires before the game starts, especially at international and provincial level, we will do kit inspection before the game starts, or at any time, but we usually do it before the game starts. We'll do kit inspection and we'll check whether the bat can go through this bat gauge. These bat gauges were made as per these blade dimensions. So if it passes through this gauge, it's a legal bat. If the bat does not pass through this bat gauge, then we will inform the player that the bat is not legal and he or she is not allowed to use the bat in the game. The last law that I'm covering for this evening is the ball. Law guide us when it comes to the weight and the size. When it comes to the weight, law tell us not less than 155.9 grams and not more than 163 grams. So anywhere in between, that's a legal ball as per the laws of cricket. And these weight and sizes that I'm currently discussing is for men's cricket. So anywhere between 155.9 and 163 legal ball. Anything more, if a team comes with a ball and it shows 1.66 grams, that ball is not legal. Or if it comes to a ball in men's cricket, 1.51 grams, also not legal as per the law. Women's cricket is different. They have different weight sizes as well as dimensions. For women's cricket, the grams are 140 grams to 151 grams, and their dimensions are 21 centimeters to 22.5 centimeters. When it comes to the approval and control of the balls, I mentioned earlier that the governing body of cricket for that particular competition, they usually decide which balls to be used. If I can use Test cricket as an example, for Test cricket, the governing body, who is the International Cricket Council, ICC, they decided that the only balls to be used for Test match cricket are the Kookaburra, the SG ball, and the Duke balls. Those are the only 3 balls that can be used for Test cricket. In South Africa, Cricket South Africa, when it comes to modern cricket, they decided that the Kookaburra is the only ball that can be used for provincial cricket in South Africa. Closer to home, here in Cape Town, South Africa, cricket is governed by the Western Province Cricket Association, and they decided that there are different balls to be used for different levels of cricket. Where they decided the Premier League, they can use the Kookaburra balls. The level below the Premier League, they use the different balls, the Inway balls. 1 or 2 leagues below that, they use the Protea balls. Again, when it comes to the approval of balls, it's the governing body that decides which balls to be used for the various competitions. It's important that all balls to be in the possession of the umpires before the toss, and throughout the game, these balls needs to remain in the control of the umpires. Law wants the umpires to take possession of the ball at the fall of each wicket, at the start of any interval, and at the start of any interruption. It's important that the umpires do take possession of the ball. In modern cricket, are you allowed a new ball? Yes, the law allows. The law tells us that either captain may demand a new ball at the start of each innings unless there's an agreement made before the game. Also, the law allows for a new ball to be used after 80 overs has been bowled in the innings. The option is there for the captain to take it. Captain does not have to exercise the option, but once you've bowled 80 overs in the innings with the ball, the option is available to replace that ball with a new one if the captain wants. What happens if a ball becomes lost or fit for play? Law tells us that if a ball cannot be found, let's say the ball gets hit into a river or out the stadium or on the roof of the stadium and they cannot find the ball, or it becomes unfit for play through normal use. You do find sometimes ball gets hit out of shape or the seam starts to get loose. If it becomes unfit, umpires are allowed to replace it, but there's a condition that's in place. The umpires needs to find a ball that had comparable wear with which the previous ball had received before the need for its replacement. So they need to find a ball in the box of balls or in the spare box. They need to find a ball that had similar wear and tear to the ball that needs to be replaced. Many occasions you won't find the exact ball with the exact same wear and tear, but you need to try to find a ball that is as close as possible to the ball that you need to replace. So yes, you are allowed to replace the ball. And if you do decide to replace the ball, and who makes that decision? Only the umpires. Batters have no input. Fielding side has no input when it comes to choosing the replacement ball. It's for the umpires alone to decide on the replacement ball. And the criteria that the umpires needs to use when it comes to choosing a replacement ball is they need to find a ball in the box of spare balls that had similar wear and tear to the ball that needed to be replaced. And once you've replaced the ball, all the umpires do is they decided on the replacement ball. They'll just inform the batters, not ask the batters their opinion. They will inform the batters that the ball has been replaced, and they will inform the fielding captain. You'll often find batters trying to put pressure on the umpires and trying to give their opinion. Even the fielding captain will try to have a say. You can ask both batters and fielding captain to move away, to give you a bit of space. You will decide on the ball, and you will inform them once the ball is changed. We do have a video where there was a change of ball in a recent test match, which Tom will take us through now. So Tom, that is my loss that I'm covering for today. But before I hand over to you, can you play us the video of this recent ball change that happened in a Ashes test match?
Yes, thanks, Abdullah. A huge talking point. In fact, the entire series between England and Australia served up some awesome material for us to use in our courses. Umpiring decisions were questioned left, right, and center. So let's go through the first one, which deals with today's law for the ball. And Abdullah and I will discuss it briefly after the video before going into our question and answer session with Langton. So, Abdullah, I didn't watch that particular moment in the test match. I did see that the short pitch delivery hit the back of Usman Khawaja's helmet, and that probably made the ball go out of shape. The umpires used their ball gauge, and it did not go through the one hoop that it's supposed to go through. So take us through the process there, what the umpires did, what they maybe could have done better. Was it a replacement ball with the same wear and tear as the original ball? That is the controversy that all Australian fans and players were up in arms about.
Tom, thanks. Let me take you to this before the start of the test match. Important duties of the umpires, and at test match level, there are 4 umpires. So important duties of the reserve umpire is to double check the spare balls at their disposal, to make sure that that they do have a good spread of spare balls available. And what I mean by good spread of spare balls, you need to have, let's say there should be a new ball in the box. There should be a ball that's just a few overs old. There should be a ball that's about 10 overs old, maybe 15, 20. There should be a good spread of spare balls available, because what you don't know is when there's a ball change, and what over the ball will be changed. The conditions also play an important role. At some grounds, ball do tend to scuff up quicker than at other grounds. But the point I'm trying to make is, before the game starts, the umpires, they do make sure that there's a good spread of balls available at their disposal. So now, yes, the knock to the back of the helmet of Kawaja took the ball out of shape. They did the ball test, and it's important to try to get, as umpires, to try to get hold of a ball gauge. It will really help you. It will take subjectivity out of your decision to change the ball or not, because it's fairly clear cut and for everyone to see. You take a ball gauge. If the ball goes through the hoop, it doesn't go through the hoop, it's out of shape. If it goes through the hoop, it's still in shape, clear for everyone to see. No arguments. So importantly, try to get hold of a ball gauge. It just helps you to avoid arguments and to avoid any subjectivity. So now the ball needed to be changed. It didn't go through the hoop. Fourth umpire came on with the box of spare balls. Again, these spare balls were examined by the fourth umpire to make sure there's a good spread. I've discovered that there's only one condition that the umpire needs to make when deciding on the new ball, on the replacement ball. It needs to be a ball that had similar wear and tear to the ball before the need for its replacement. You will never find a ball with the exact same wear and tear in your box. You need to go to the ball and find a ball that is as close to the ball that needed to be replaced. And that is the decision that the 2 on-field umpires made when they decided on the replacement ball. That ball that they chose was the closest ball in that box, or at the similar wear and tear to the ball that needed to be replaced. Yes, visually it did look a bit newer, but according to them and the balls that they had at their disposal, that was the closest, and that's why they took that particular ball and gave it to the fielding side. You will never be able to please any of the sides. I had many occasions where, yes, the ball looked a bit newer and the batters were complaining, and I also had many occasions where the ball was slightly older, and I applied the same criteria when choosing the replacement ball. And now you had the fielding captain complaining, but this ball is so much older than the ball that you had to replace, unfair. But we apply our criteria, or the umpires applied the criteria. It was unfit for play, didn't go through the rings. They checked the box. That was the closest ball. That's why they chose that particular ball. Over to you, Tom.
Thanks, Dula. So we've got a test match umpire in our midst this evening. Thank you so much, Langton, for giving up your time. I know you're a busy man. Last time I saw you, you were in Zimbabwe for the World Cup qualifying tournament. And then a week or 2 later, you were in Tanzania for an under-19s World Cup qualifying tournament. So before we get Langton in to chat with us and take a few questions from myself, Abdullah, and all the candidates. Let's watch a little introduction video. And please note, this was made in April 2021.
After Bassi, outstanding brand. What a good start that is for the Surfers.
Something significant happened on Thursday that most of the South African cricket media missed, but it should have been the lead on every single cricket platform. Langton Rusere became the first black African umpire to stand in a test match in the format's history. Why is this significant? Well, the first officially recognized test match took place in 1877. That's 144 years of test cricket. I attempted to highlight why this is an indictment on the game. I won't. I want to celebrate Rusere as a trailblazer and not diminish the significant moment in the game's history. Rusere most likely only got an opportunity because of COVID protocols, but I really don't care. An opportunity it is, and I hope he enjoys every single moment of his history-making feat. Most importantly, I hope he earns another crack soon, not because he's black, because he's highly competent. I hope he gets another opportunity, and another, and another, and another. In the same way Test cricket is seen as the pinnacle of the sport for players, so it is for umpires. Black African has broken the ceiling, infiltrated the club, and in doing so, opened the door for others. In South Africa, there's an obsession with transformation of our teams, but little attention is paid to the transformation of our elite umpiring structure. Bongani Jele is our only black African international umpire in a pool of 5. I hope that in time this number swells, and that one day we can celebrate one of our own following in Rusere's footsteps. It is significant because Rusere is the first, hopefully of many. He's now a professional reference for a generation of black African kids. And I hope this feat births generations of black African umpires.
A trailblazer who has opened the door for others, a professional reference for a generation of umpires. Langton, good evening. Are you with us? Nice to have you.
Hi, Tom. How are you?
I'm
good
very
evening,
well,
everyone on the
thank
call.
you. Langton, I'm sure the listeners have got a few questions for you. To start us off, I'm going to ask you just to tell us how you started umpiring, what made you decide to not play or quit playing, and talk us through your career from when you started until that famous day that Ryan Frieda reported on, your test match debut in April 2021. The floor is yours.
First of all, I will start by congratulating you and Abdullah for organizing this. You've educated a lot of umpires all over Africa and hopefully all over the world. People will be watching this and be taking part in your courses. And to Abdullah, congratulations on being an Umpire of the Year nominee in South Africa. Unfortunately, well, you didn't win, but it tells me that you're doing something very well, and I hope you continue doing what you're doing. And to get to the question you asked me, I played cricket for about 10 years, and my competition here in Zimbabwe was very stiff because I was a leg spinner, and my competition was the likes of Graham Creamer, and there was no I was going to beat a guy like that. So I thought, because I wasn't as talented as he was, I should focus on school because I was probably better at that. And because I enjoyed cricket, when I went to university, I decided, let me take up umpiring and still be involved in the game. I actually took it up as a hobby because a friend of mine had said, because you want to be involved, you could work on umpiring and be involved in the game still. And I took the exams, went through the processes. Fortunately for me, it worked, and I am where I am today.
Awesome.
I don't know if
Thank
that
you so
answers
much. Yeah, thank you so much for that brief introduction, Langton. Very humble man, I must say. Whenever we congratulate you about your achievements, you always deflect the congratulations back to the person who congratulating you. But I think that's one of the great traits of a good umpire, isn't it? to be humble, yet strong in your beliefs of your abilities?
I would say so, yeah, because one of the hardest things to do in cricket, in my view, is umpire, because there's a 50% chance that you are wrong, and nobody wants to be wrong. And we do this week in, week out, knowing that we could be wrong, but we still go in umpire cricket, knowing that whatever decision we're going to make might be the wrong one. So it takes a lot of guts to umpire. It takes a lot of being able to say to yourself, hang on, I might be wrong, but the game goes on. Because when you guys were speaking about law 2, which is the umpire, knowing that law, does it say the umpire has to make a correct decision? We spoke about, when you started off, you talked about what do you call it? The spirit of cricket and accepting an umpire's decision. It doesn't say the umpire's decision has to be right, but we accept it, hoping it's right. And that's part of the game. We go through the punishment week in, week out, and we, especially when you umpire the type of cricket that you and Abdullah umpire, and I see Mazizi Gampu is on the call as well. He's umpired quite a bit of cricket. It's good to see other umpires supporting what you guys are doing. So I'm happy that you've got a lot of people taking part in this, and you're inspiring a generation, so to speak.
Awesome. Thanks, Langton. So we're going to open up the questions and answers to the floor. You can either type your question into the chat box, or you can raise your virtual hand, and I will acknowledge you to please unmute your microphone and ask your question to Langton. Before we go to the candidates' questions, Abdullah's got a question for you, Langton.
Yes, Abdullah.
Good evening, Langton. How are you?
Hi, Abdullah. How are you? I'm good, thank you.
No, good. Thank you. Thank you so much for those kind words, Langton. Coming from you, it means a lot. I'm looking at your stats that's shown on the screen. From Test matches to ODIs to T20s, first class, list A's, and I'm sure you stand local cricket as well, club cricket. So my question to you is: You've stood at the highest level, you stood at provincial level, you're standing at you're doing club games as well. In terms of preparation, how do you prepare for the different levels? Do you have exactly the same type of preparation, or does it differ from format to format or level to level? Over to you, Langton.
I would say, thank you for that. That's a very good question. I would actually say it's harder preparing for junior cricket and club cricket because, one, there's no match ref involved. Two, there's no TV involved. So whatever I do, whatever decision I'm going to make in that game, whether wrong or right, is going to have an impact on a player, and they can't review my decision. And if there's a disciplinary problem or an issue, then I have to deal with it. Whereas in international cricket, I just write it up and the match ref deals with it. So when my approach when I'm doing club cricket or schoolboy cricket is I want to give myself the best opportunity to get decisions right. Whereas, well, it's still the same approach, but how I then focus when I'm on field and as I prepare for the games is slightly different to what I do when I'm umpiring a test match. With a test match or an ODI, I'm focusing more on how do I create relationships with players so that I get them on my good side. When I'm umpiring a guy like Steve Smith, it's not the same when I'm umpiring a schoolboy, because I know with the Steve Smith, sure, egos might be involved, but if I show him respect, he's probably going to work with me. But when you do a club game, club cricket is really tough in my view. So my approach is slightly different. With club cricket, my approach is more, let me get decisions right. With televised cricket, it's more, let me build relationships with players. Because decisions, whether right or wrong, everyone at home who's watching will be able to know whether it's right or wrong. Whereas in a club game, it's me and the player that think, maybe I got it right, maybe I got it wrong. But with a test match, where there's DRS, I will know right away that I got it right or wrong. So I don't think about decisions when I'm umpiring higher level cricket. I don't know if that answers your question, Abdullah.
Yes, it does. Thank you so much for that, Langton. Over to you, Tom.
Thanks, Langton. Thanks, Abdullah. We've got a hand up in the chat box. Rohan Weatherspoon, please unmute your microphone and the floor is yours to ask Langton a question.
Hi, Langton. How are you?
Hi, Rohan. How are you?
Not too bad. I had the opportunity to umpire with Abdullah in the over 50 Veteran World Cup in Cape Town last year. I think this year.
Yeah, this year.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, this year. Yeah, this year. I just have a question. I know Tom had mentioned that there was a game where McGrath had injured his ankle, and after the toss, but prior to the start of the game, the opposing captain, gave a consent that he could replace McGrath with another player. Now, my question is, this captain had a list of nominated players, 11 players. Unfortunately, only 10 players showed up. So he started the game with 10 players on the field. He fielded first and he started the game with 10 players on the field. That innings was completed, and then his team was batting. When 7 wickets was down, he came on the field and asked the opposing captain if he could replace the player that didn't show up. There was one guy that didn't show up for the entire match. Nobody knows whether he was injured or whatever. Nobody knows. But he didn't show up for that game. Can the umpire allow that captain to agree to replace that player almost at the end of the game? The last wicket was batting.
So, according to the laws, it says it has to have there has to be consent from the opposite captain, right? And we're not involved in stuff like that because spirit of cricket is a captain to captain thing, and we help guide it, but it's not our responsibility. So if the opposing captain says no, there's nothing we can do, and that's part of the reason why I said umpiring this club cricket, schoolboy cricket, all of that is harder because there's no match ref. In cases where match ref is present, they will then have the final decision if the other captain decides no, and the other guy wants there to be a substitute or a replacement player or whatever it is, or in addition to the number of players that was there. So I think it's so much harder being involved in cricket where you don't have all these luxuries, but it makes you learn more about the laws and playing conditions in that tournament and what we're supposed to do as umpires. And as far as the laws tell us, if the other captain says no, then we can't do anything about it.
Yeah, but unfortunately, the other captain said yes, because this batting captain was trying to convent the law because he knew the guy wouldn't show up. He was waiting for him to show up. If he had showed up, then he could bat after 5 wickets were down. So this guy didn't show up for the entire. So he tried to reconvent the law by asking the opposing captain if he can replace that guy so he can try and win the game. The captain said yes. Could an umpire intervene and said, well, that's unfair play because the last guy is batting?
If it's after 5 wickets or if they serve their time, we can't really get involved because at the end of the day, and I don't know if that will help anyone on the score. So a lot of times as umpires, we want to be in charge, but we're actually not supposed to be in charge. It's not our responsibility to be in charge of the game. It's our responsibility to manage the game and not insert ourselves in the game. So once the other captain said yes, we had no responsibility, or we have no responsibility other than to allow it because the other guy allowed it. That's as far as our umpiring should go.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thanks for the question, Mr. Weatherspoon. Lovely to hear your Canadian Caribbean accent once again. And hope to see you next year at the Over 40s World Cup back here again in Cape Town.
No, you might see me
I was
in the
actually
USA.
going to ask if you're from the Caribbean islands.
Yeah, I am from Guyana, but I'm presently living in Canada. I'm a Canadian umpire. But Abdullah, I would see
I
you
like
in the...
Guyana. That's one of my favorite places.
Okay. But I would see Abdullah in the USA because I would be doing the over 50 USA tournament there. I think 3 of South African umpires were invited to go to the US this year.
That's correct, Mr. Weatherspoon. It's myself, Abdullah, and Warren Weingard, who was also involved in the over 50s World Cup. So we'll see you in a month, in exactly 1 month's time in Houston.
Yes, in Houston, Texas.
Awesome.
Tom, do you just mind me just greeting Mr. Weatherspoon? Hello, Mr. Weatherspoon. Great to hear your voice again. Looking forward seeing you in just about a month's time.
Yes, we
have a good evening, Mr. Weatherspoon.
Yes, you too.
Yes, sir. Okay, bye, Mr. Weatherspoon. Over to you, Tom.
Next hand up is Christopher Felix. Christopher, I see your microphone is on. The floor is yours. Please address your question to Langton.
Good evening, Tom. Abdullah, thank you firstly very much for this opportunity, and Tom, especially you in the communication. It's been done very swiftly and I appreciate it. Langton, if I may ask a very quick one, perhaps it has been covered when this part was discussed. So in Test cricket, the new ball, which may be taken at 80 overs. So my question, so often the fielding side would feel, no, they're not going to take the new ball immediately. Maybe they feel the ball is swinging or whatever. When they do opt to take the new ball, must it be at the start of an over or can it be in the middle of the over?
Good question, Chris. The good thing is it can be any time after 80 overs. So it can be 80.1 overs, 80.3 overs. At any time after 80 overs, when the ball is dead, you can replace the ball. They can ask for the new ball at any time when the ball is dead after 80. But what needs to happen is, so let's say they take it at, say, 81.5 overs. They have to bowl 80 overs with that ball. You won't say because we bowled 80 with the previous one, we start, we have to bowl, say, 80.1 to make, or 79.1 to make it 80 overs because it was a part over. We have to bowl 80 complete overs with the new ball to make another change with that ball, if that answers your question.
Thank you very much. Yes, I was especially thinking of momentum, perhaps the change in the new ball when you feel you are particularly under the pump, having initially opted not to change the ball and suddenly, okay, let's take that break in momentum. But thank you so much. I appreciate your response.
You're welcome, Christopher.
Thanks for the question, Christopher. Next hand up is Peter Ongondo. Please unmute your microphone and address Langton with your question.
The legendary Peter Ongondo.
Good to see you. I had a similar question, so you have answered that, but I can also ask another one. With the issue of captains agreeing, does he also apply when the umpire thinks that the pitch is a bit dangerous for play, and then both the captains think that it's fit to play? Is the decision stays with the umpire, or if they think it's fit for play, you can allow them to play?
So once both captains say they want to play and the umpires have said to them, well, we think it's dangerous, and the captains decide, both of them, they want to play, then they play. As I said earlier, we're there to manage the game, but if the players want to play, we're there for the players. So once they've said ground, weather and light is okay for us, don't worry, we can play, then we play. Because it's not up to us to say, no, we should not play. I don't know if that helps, Peter.
Yeah, that helps. That helps.
We come in as umpires.
A simple.
Yes.
Just a simple one. You've said with the league cricket, if you get a decision wrong, do you talk to the players after the game about it, or how do you handle it after in the next few overs? Does it affect you going forward, or you just let it go?
Me personally, I'm affected by every decision I make,
Yes,
good or bad.
you personally.
It affects me. But what I try not to do is to dwell on a decision. Once I've made it, I don't worry about it in the moment. Because at the end of the day, I've already made the decision. So dwelling on it in the game will lead me to making more mistakes if it was a mistake. Or if it was a good decision, me celebrating too early will shift my focus from what's happening in the game and end up being a distraction. So what I don't do in a game is dwell on a decision. Two, to answer the question on whether I discuss it with a player or not, I think what helps is because I've been doing this for quite a bit. I've been umpiring for 18 years. You sort of get to gauge players' attitudes. And if it's someone that, say, for example, I've umpired for a long time, give an example, a Sean Williams. If he talks to me about my decision during the game, if he thinks, I don't quite agree with that decision, then we can talk about it. But if it's someone that I'm not used to, I probably don't talk about it. I dismiss them, but in a respectful way. It's a decision I had to make in the moment. Remember, my decision is just an opinion. It's just unfortunate that my opinion holds more value over anyone else's on field. So they have to live with it. And I have to live with it as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Great answer there, Langton. Thanks for the questions, Peter. Next hand up is Afak Alam. Please unmute your microphone and address your question to Langton.
Hi, Langton, sir. How are you?
Hi, Afak. How are
Can you hear
you?
me?
Yes.
Yeah. Hi, sir. How are you? Actually, I'm here in UAE. Actually, I'm from Pakistan. So I start
Oh, good.
the umpiring here, and I'm doing nearby 500 matches at the local teams actually. So this is my first time to talk any international umpire. So my question to you, sir, what was the toughest decision? I mean, when you are taking, and it's like you feel it's a very tough decision for me, and normally here, most of the teams are not agreed for the leg before decisions, which we are taking. So I hope you understand what I'm asking to you.
Yeah. Well, so I guess with most cricket, LBWs are the most contentious decisions. But at the end of the day, once you make a decision, so this is my advice to any umpire. And now Tom had said to me, I should answer this question for him. Well, he had asked me to answer the question for him, and it's in line with what you just asked now. That this is my advice to any umpire in the world. Once you make a decision, don't ever try to justify it to anyone, one, and don't try to suck up to captains. And Tom mentioned this when he was talking about law one. We don't suck up to anyone. Once you make a decision, we're expecting that, one, it's the best decision you could make in that moment. Two, whether people agree with it or not, it's already been made. So it's not going to change because people don't like the decision. What you need to do for yourself is to make sure that once you make any decision, if you feel some type of way about it before you get a captain's report, and I actually don't look at captain's reports, have your own assessment of yourself, do a self-assessment and be honest with yourself and go, was that the right decision? And more than just the decision itself, think about the processes. Were your processes for that decision correct? The decision you could guess and get it right, but if your processes are what they should be for an LBW, for example, with this one, was the ball a legal delivery? Did it pitch between wicket and wicket? Was the bat involved? Was it going to hit the stumps? Sort of that. If those processes are right for you, don't worry about what people are going to say, because not everyone's going to be happy with every decision you make. Even when there's DRS, I can give you an example of Steve Smith and Manas, who people call Manas Labuschagne, Manas Labuschagne. They are never happy with decisions, even when they are wrong on DRS. They are not happy still. So don't worry about what people think. Worry about what you feel about your decision, and work on that. Manage yourself. and track your performance from there.
Thank you so much.
I
Thank
don't know
you
if
for
that
your
answers you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that question, Afak. And something I usually do at the beginning of these courses, which I forgot to do this evening, is to ask everybody to type in where they are in the world of cricket today, so that we can see the various countries that are represented and we can all learn from each other. So I'm going to start. I'm going to type into the chat box, Cape Town, South Africa. And I hope you all follow suit and you'll be able to realize that this is a global audience with the Zimbabwean umpire, a presenter from Lesotho, a law specialist from Mitchell's Plain in Cape Town, and we now have about 80 candidates still in the chat in the box waiting to ask questions. So next question is from Diraviam Senthil, and apologies if I pronounce your name incorrectly. You may unmute your microphone and address your question to Langton.
Good evening, Langton. Thank you so much for participating this one. And this is a very good opportunity for us to ask our question. Now, my first question is like how you will prepare mentally as well as physically for the test matches, because you are going to stand for 5 days. First question.
Thanks for that, Drian. Right. Thank you for that question, Drian. Do you want me to answer, or you want to ask all your questions, or you want me to answer one by one?
You can answer this question. What kind of basic exercise you need to follow, maybe?
All right, so I'll answer that question for you. What I try to do is, so right now I can tell you in 3 weeks, I'm meant to go to Pakistan for Asia Cup. I start by making sure I know what the conditions are like where I'm going, weather-wise. So I start preparing myself for that. And wherever I go in umpire, I then go, what's the culture like there? How do the pitches play? What are the weather conditions? So I know how to prepare. So I know I'm going to Pakistan. It's going to be a bit hotter than what it was the last time I was there. I start making sure that when I'm exercising, I exercise when it's the hottest during the day here for me, so that when I get there, I'm not exhausted when I'm umpiring. I start hydrating. I start making sure that the food I eat helps me focus a bit more. For example, my diet 2-3 weeks before a series is mostly going to be vegetables. It's mostly going to be nuts. It's mostly going to be a lot of water, because I want to make sure I'm hydrated so that my mind is alert, my eyes see well, and I don't get tired easily. And I don't know if that answers your question. Then mentally, I then tell myself, which is what I say to myself before every game I umpire when there's TV or DRS, that it's okay to do this in a game because the right decision has been made by technology. So I'm not too bothered when I do that during the game. Of course, everyone wants to get decisions right, but for those moments where I am going to have to overturn my decision, I don't dwell on it during the game, because a lot of people will think that you doing this means that you're a bad umpire. No, it doesn't. It just means the decision you made in that moment was a bad one, and technology corrected it. So once you start thinking, oh my goodness, I'm a bad umpire because I did this 3 times in a test match, there's more chances of you getting stuff wrong. So the mental side of it is actually as important as the physical side, the physical training that I put into it. And I'm fortunate that I have an umpire coach. So I start talking to my umpire coach going into a series, and we start talking about the sort of things that I might encounter in a game. Does that answer your question?
Thank you so much. You have answered my question. The second question is like LBW, there is a next is no ball. In the height no ball. Above the height, the pop increase. So that is also sometimes if it is like a league match or something, so they will ask like it will be lower than the, it will be higher than the batsman will tell always it is higher than the waist. But the fielding side will tell no, it is lower only. So those kind of things, how you will take a decision like LBW, whatever the decisions, to be honest in your mind, what's your As per the process, what you have identified, then you can take a decisions.
Right. It's unfortunate I don't have it on me now, but I was going to show you what I do when I then do my self-assessments. And to answer your question, each time I umpire a game, I go back to my notes and go, what is important to me in this game? Whether it's a club game, it's a school's game, it's whatever game it is. And I never worry about what people who are watching or the teams are going to think about my decision. Because again, it's just an opinion, but it is an opinion that I am paid to make. So I can't worry about what people think about my decisions. And as you progress in your umpiring, you should never worry about what a coach is going to say about your decisions, what a captain is going to say about you in a report, because it's not as important as how you are going to assess yourself at the end of the day. If your assessment is honest, when you make decisions, whether you felt I should call no ball because I felt it was above the waist, or whether I should give LBW because I thought it was low enough and was going to hit the wickets, that's what matters, not what anyone else is going to say to you. If you are wrong, let's say there's video footage, and I encourage people to watch the video footage of what they do when they're processing stuff. If it shows something different to what you were thinking in the moment, then you go, okay, so I wasn't in the right space, so I wasn't in the right moment. What do I do to improve on this? And you can't worry about what a spectator, a coach, a player is going to say, because they're biased as well. What you might want to do, depending on who you're umpiring with, is talk to your colleague at the end of the day or at the end of the game, then get feedback from them on what they thought you should work on. It helps if you're umpiring with someone who's a bit more experienced than you, because they can guide you better. But at the end of the day, still, what you then think when you're assessing yourself matters more than what everyone else says. Does that help in any way?
Thank you so much for the answer. It's really helped you.
You're welcome, Dran. You're welcome.
Awesome questions being asked and brilliant answers being given. Next hand up is Navneeth. Please unmute your microphone and address your question to Langton.
Thank you so much. This is Navneet. I'm from Canada, and I would like to ask 3 quick questions. The first one is about change of ball. So is there any advice you have apart from the measuring gauge that we use? Do you use any other technique where you know that the ball has to be changed?
To answer that question, I will start by saying, when you put it in the gauge, you'd have said to yourself, hang on, something's wrong here. So the first thing you need to do is make a physical inspection of the ball. You should see that something's wrong with the ball, right?
Yeah.
Then the next thing is going to the gauge. So once you then say to yourself, I think there's something wrong with the ball, the gauge isn't what's going to make you change the ball. The gauge is what's going to cover your bases when you then change the ball. Same as when people go, the light is bad, the light meter isn't what's making you say, let's go off because the light is bad. It's your eyes. So once your eyes tell you that the ball is not in the same condition as it was, the ball gauge is only going to protect you, so that it's more of a science than an opinion that you made. It removes emotion out of it for the players. Then they think, oh yeah, did you see the ball didn't go through the ball gauge? Or no, it went through the wrong side of the ball gauge. So it serves to protect you when you then change the ball. What I encourage people to do is when a wicket falls, you check the ball. If it's in a T20 game, because you're only using one ball. If it's in a multi-day game where you're using one ball. If a wicket falls, if there's a break in play, make sure people see you physically looking at the ball and handing it to the next person, the bowler or whoever it is. Because once people see that happening, when you then change the ball, it's not a surprise for anyone, because everyone will say, the umpires were looking at the ball, we're checking the ball regularly. And if you umpire in cricket where there is a mesh ref, each time you make a ball check, you speak to the TV umpire or the mesh ref, say ball checked, all good, ball checked, there's a mark, whatever. So that when The ball has changed. There's some paper trail of it, and people go, it's not something we didn't expect because we saw these people were doing this often. Does that help in any way, Pankaj?
Yeah, thank you. And my next question is, what you did or what you would advise somebody who's young, who's doing club cricket, first few years of umpiring, what they should do to improve their decision-making skills?
Decisions are just the last bit of what I want people, or what I encourage people to work on. It's unfortunate that the world looks at decisions more than anything else. Umpiring has other soft skills. It's unfortunate decision making is the only measurable skill. There's your communication, there's your alertness, awareness, fitness. There's stuff like how you treat players and how you handle pressure. All that stuff we can't measure. It's only decisions that people can go, he got an LBW decision wrong, or she got an LBW decision wrong. But it should be the least of your worries, because for you to be umpiring, it means, well, I would think that you're a good decision maker. It's the other stuff that I encourage people to work on, because not too many people focus on that. How competent are you with laws under pressure? That's important. How do you deal with calculations when you come off in inclement weather? That's important. Your decision making should be the least of your worries. So I encourage everyone on the call to start thinking about those soft skills. And Abdullah can tell you that he wasn't nominated to be umpire of the year because he was such a great decision maker, because it's not only about that, it's all those other things around that matter as well. So don't just focus on your decisions, focus on all the other things that make you a complete umpire. Decision making should take care of itself the more you do games. And I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, definitely. That was very helpful. And my last question, just from this conversation, I was under the understanding that the ground weather and light, the umpires are the sole judge of ground weather and light. And you said, like, if both captains agree, then you can allow them to play. So I'm a bit confused over there.
They are the sole judges of ground weather and light if you look at law 2. But if you then look at what it says in, like this book, for example, the cricket that I umpire, if both captains want to play, we can't stop them from playing. But we are the sole judges. What that means, is when we say we think it's bad and we agree on it, if one person then goes, we don't think it's bad, at the end of the day, it's up to the umpire. But if both captains still want to play, they have taken us out of the equation, and they're taking a position to say, if anything happens, we're absolving the umpires of whatever else happens, and they're not responsible for injuries because we've said we want to play. Okay. I hope that clears up the confusion.
Okay. Thank you so much. It was great talking to an international umpire. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Navneet. Just remember that we are presenting the laws of cricket, the 42 laws of cricket. We'll present 40 of them. But Langton just referred to the ICC playing conditions. So playing conditions will always overrule the law where there is conflict in what the playing condition says and the law says. The playing conditions of that particular match or tournament will overrule the law. For the purposes of the exam, please always refer to the law that we are presenting in this course. Next hand up, I'm very excited to see my legend, the first class national panel umpire of Cricket South Africa, Mazizi Gampu. How are you, Zizi?
I'm all right, thanks in yourself, legend. Tom.
Very well, thanks. Good to hear your voice and looking forward to seeing you next week for our panel conference. Your question to Langton, please.
Yeah, Langton, how are you?
I'm very well, thanks, Mazizi. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks, man. Thank you for taking this opportunity to be with us. It really means a lot to us. And thanks for sharing your experience. We learn, as you know, like on this game of cricket, if you stop learning, then you should stop umpiring or playing. So
True.
thank you so
Yeah,
much for
that's
that.
very true.
I've got
No, thank you for
a
inviting me to
question
this.
that I need to ask you. All right, thank you. I've got a question which is going to help most of the guys that are actually doing tournaments, which is the Tom had a presentation about it, which is a Cricket South Africa tournament. So when you get to those tournaments, there's a competition that's very uptight and everybody wants to be on top. And you get people that will do things obviously just to be on top or be the best so that they can be able to do the finals or to be ranked number one for the tournament. I'm sure there's something similar to that you have come through as well. And how did you manage those characters that you meet? And how did you make sure that you bypass and be the better person and still your work comes out and speak for yourself so that you can be nominated for maybe to go up level higher or maybe even making it to the national panel of Zimbabwe? That's my first question.
It's tough umpiring in tournaments to start with, and I've been fortunate that I used to umpire in South Africa in the under 15, under 17, all those weeks. I took part in those, and I know exactly what you mean when you say people compete. And even when I became a first-class umpire, there was a lot of competition, people wanting to show the umpire selectors, the umpire coaches that they are better than the next person. I will say to anyone on this call and every umpire that I work with that once you start thinking about competition, you are not in the right business. The only person you should compete with or against is yourself. You should only want to be better than who you were yesterday when you umpired. So I know you've umpired 20 first-class games, and you should say to yourself, in these 20 first-class matches that I've umpired, what's important to me and where do I want to get to, without showing that the next person is bad or wrong or you're better, because it's not about that. They will always, once you start again, you make it about competition. And your setup, for example, you have a guy like Arno Jacobs who hasn't been umpiring for that long, but is ranked higher than some guys that have been umpiring for a very long time. It's not about competition. It shouldn't be about where the person goes. We are all on different paths, even though we are all umpiring. It should be about how do I get to be the best umpire that I can be, regardless of whatever level you end up at, because it's not about where you end up. And for example, when Adrian Holstock went onto the elite panel, there were 5 people in contention for that post, for that position on the elite panel, but he wasn't competing against anyone. Because if you know Holler, you know what he's about. He's not about competition. And he's all about trying to make himself better. And once you work on yourself and try to improve yourself, try to improve your knowledge of laws and playing condition, calculations, the soft skills, and obviously the decision making, because people look at that. You don't need to worry about whether you're going to make it in a tournament or not. Sure, it sucks, but at the end of the day, all you can do is work on improving on your skills little by little. What I say to myself, for example, is I want to be 10% better than I was in my last game. And I have it written down in my notes that what does a 10% improvement look like for me? Then I say, okay, I want to be 10% fitter. What does that mean? If I was running 2 kilometers, I want to run 2.2 kilometers next time. If I was doing this, I want to do a little bit more so that I am a bit better than I was the last time I umpired. If I managed players well, I want to do it even better. And how do I do that? And you're a first-class umpire. It could mean when you go to the panel conference, you're not trying to show people that you know, but you're trying to show people that I am where I am because I deserve to be here. Not that you're competing against those 14 other guys that will be there or 20 other guys that'll be there. You're competing against Mazizi and not anyone else. Does that help in any way?
Yes, it does. Thank you so much. And there's one question that you did answer, but I just feel that I need to find out what's your coping mechanism, because you spoke about recovering from making a bad decision. So it's something that's easier said than when you have to do it, because at some point you can't help stressing about a wrong decision, especially in your level where you have to overturn a decision, and then the camera is going to be on your face, and your face won't lie. I mean, the expression that you're going to be giving there, it's
That
a
is
true
true.
reflection of how you personally feel about it. And then the coping mechanism that you use that works for you now, that you focus on the next ball, which is the very most important ball. And in your personal capacity, what is it that you do?
I will start by telling you that I used to worry so much about getting decisions right. And when I got a decision wrong, it affected me a lot. And because I work with Carl Herter, I've been working with him for 10 years now. What he then said to me, and what other elite umpires have said to me, is it's just a game of cricket. If you make it that simple, I know it's not that easy when you're umpiring. It's just a game. Sure, you want to be the best you can be, but at the end of the day, it's just a game. What one of the umpire coaches, his name is David Levins, started working on with me 2 years ago was the acronym WIN, WIN, which stands for what's important now. So when I make a decision, I get it right, I get it wrong, I've already made it. It's not what's important right now. What's important right now is the next ball. I will do a game where, and I can tell you, in the World Cup last year, I had a decision as a TV umpire. You probably shouldn't get decisions wrong as a TV umpire, but I got a horrible decision wrong. And I said to myself, this is only the 7th over in the game. If I dwell on this right now, I am going to crash. I've made a decision. It's wrong. I am the first one to admit to myself that I am wrong. I park it. I will beat myself up about it after the game. But right now, I still have 13 overs in this innings and another 20 in the next innings. So I've got 33 overs to go in the game. And I still have to make decisions. I can't worry about one decision I got wrong. Let me work on making sure that my mind is clear and I'm in the moment for the next one, so that when a harder decision comes or an easier decision comes, I am in the best frame of mind to get it right. Again, I said earlier, it's just an opinion, and it is an opinion if you really think about it. There's only one of two outcomes with a decision. It's either it's wrong or it's right. If it's wrong, tough luck, it happens. If it's right, good, move on. It has happened. I think what people won't tell you is you are actually more likely or more susceptible to get decisions wrong after you get a really good decision right, because you celebrate too early.
Yeah.
And success is an equally bad thing to have dwelling on your mind in a game as much as failure is. When you make a decision, my umpire coach has said to me, and this is something that we've been working on for 4 years now, that when you make a decision, the worst thing that you can do for yourself is to question the decision after you've made it, because it's already happened. Leave it alone, focus on the next thing. Leave it alone, focus on the next thing. And what I try to do is not a coping mechanism as such. It's, I don't know what to call it. It's something I do to track errors for myself. I say to myself, what am I thinking of in the moment? Because I used to make decisions, bad decisions, close to breaks. And I realized that it was because I was now thinking, there's only 2 overs to go in the game. Then I start worrying about the end of the game, and something happens in the moment and I miss it. So I now don't worry about what's going to happen in 3 balls or 5 balls or 10 balls. I make it 1 ball at a time. And I talk to myself every single ball in a game. And I tell myself, this is the most important ball in the game. Just as the ball is about to bowl, I go, this is the most important ball to me in the game. And that's how I cope with whatever happens in a game. I hope that helps, Mazizi.
Yeah, it does help a lot. Thank you so much for unpacking that. So the last but not least question, I think there's more hands. You're still going to be here for long. I think this is more related. You won't find it in the law book. It's more of a personal one. And how do you make sure that your work-life balance is intact? Because believe you me, most people do have families. You travel a lot. You're not there for your loved ones. Could be your kids, could be your niece, nephews, and that has an impact on you traveling as well. So, how do you keep? Because before each game that you're going to be attending, your mindset needs to be on the right place, and you need to be happy as well. At a happy space so that you can be able to perform at your utmost best.
Part of what helped me, and this is following up from the previous question, part of what helped me think, hang on, this is just a game at the end of the day, was my wife. Because I would tell her, oh, I got this decision wrong, I did this, I did that. And the answer she would give was, well, you got other stuff right in the game, didn't you? And that used to piss me off because I'd go, you don't understand. I'm an umpire and we are in a competition, whether we like it or not. Everyone wants to be better than themselves and the next person and all the umpires in the world. And I go, she doesn't understand. But she's shaped how I think now because it's just a game. So you'll get stuff right, you'll get stuff wrong. And she's the biggest support network that I've got because for me, what happens in a game, whether good or bad, if I can go on a call with my wife and my son at the end of a game, that's what matters to me because that's the most important bit to me. Sure, I want to be one of the best umpires in the world. Sure, I want to get everything right in a game, but that's not always going to happen. What needs to happen, what I say to myself needs to happen before I umpire any series is to make sure that I have a good-ish home life balance. So before I go for any series, I try to make sure that the home stuff is sorted. If I have bills to pay, they're paid. So I don't think about a bill when I'm umpiring. I want my mind to be clear when I'm umpiring. I don't want to think, oh my goodness, I owe this person money. I can't think about that. I shouldn't think about that because there'll be an appeal in that moment. So when I'm at home, I'm at home. When I'm at work, I'm at work. So I play with my son as much as I can when I'm at home. And I talk to him as much as I can after a game. I talk to my wife as much as I can. We speak as much as we can when I'm working so that I keep the home stuff out of my umpiring, out of my mind when I'm umpiring. So what you are umpiring a lot of cricket, you'll be in Cape Town one game, you'll be in Pretoria the next game. What I would advise you to do is make sure that your support network, your family, your kids, your friends know that when it's time for you to work, you are switched off to everything else except the work. And when you're not working, you make sure that you're focusing on what you're doing in that moment so that when the time comes for you to switch off to that and be focused on work, all you're doing in the moment is making sure that the work stuff's sorted. I hope that helps.
It helps a lot. Thank you so much, Langton, for the answers. And Tom, thanks for the opportunity. And Abdullah, keep doing up the great work there in the Western Cape. We're looking forward to join you guys meet those standards.
And thank you for being on the call because it shows me, I was saying that to someone just now, that it shows me how committed you are to making sure that you're growing as well because you don't need to be on the call. You're already a first-class umpire, but you're on the call, you want to learn something new, and I wish you the very best in your umpiring.
Thank you so much, Langton, and same applies to you. Have a good season ahead of you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thanks, Zizi. Always good to hear from you, and looking forward to seeing you next week, Thursday, for the panel conference. Dennis Burns, a ICC umpire coach, he says about umpires that they will talk until the cows come home. So, ladies and gents,
yes, that is true.
In the interest of Langton's time and also for the rest of the candidates on the course, can we please limit questions to one per person? So, Dheeraj, your hand is up. Please unmute your microphone and the floor is yours to address Langton.
Thank you very much, Tom, for the opportunity. And it's so amazing to hear, Langton, your thought process of how you go to games, etc. It's like gold mine of information for someone who's starting. So thank you for sharing all the nuggets that you've been so far. My question is kind of a little tangential, I think, to then what we're hearing so far on the call. Like, having played cricket yourself, how do you motivate yourself to umpire in a game where you're not actively involved as a player yourself, right? Because you've been on the field playing and now you're umpiring. So how do you distinguish and motivate yourself to still be active as an umpire in a game? Of course, you're at the highest level now, but for someone like us who's starting, who actively also play cricket, what is your advice for us?
I would say to you, Dheeraj, don't think about the playing when you're umpiring, because that's the easiest way to screw up. Because once you start thinking like a player, you will make decisions like a player, which is probably not what you want to do. What I mean by that is, say you were a bowler, you are more inclined to think that, let me give this out because a bowler appealed. Or if you're a batter, you probably feel for batters and go not out for the most part. You are now in a different space. You are umpiring. Think about the umpiring only. The playing stuff, when you play, you think about the playing. When you umpire, you make it about the events that you're there to manage. And those events will include decisions. Those events will include, well, by decisions, I mean from wides, no balls, all of that. Those events will include, hopefully not for the most part, dealing with conflict between umpire and a player or umpire and an umpire. Those events will include making decisions on ground, weather, and light. So when you start thinking like a player, you are already taking something away from your decision making, which you shouldn't do. Clear all of that out of your space and start thinking about the new role you're in, which is the umpiring. And I think umpiring, like I said earlier, it is the best thing that anyone can do in cricket. And I think it's the hardest thing, because once a batter is out, they don't have to worry about the game. Once a bowler's done with their spell, they don't have to worry about bowling anymore. But you have to think about what's happening in the game every single ball, because you might be called upon to make a decision every single ball. Whether you've made an error or not on the previous ball, that's not going to matter. So the umpiring bit is much tougher and it's more strenuous on the mind, because for the most part, we want to be right, but we're not going to be right all the time. And that will play up on your mind. You will start thinking about how a person reacted to a decision you made. But if you're a player, you don't have to worry about that. So leave the playing side out of it and just stick to what you do as an umpire.
Thank you, Langton.
Does that help in any way, Dheeraj?
Yeah, it does. It's very valuable the way you frame the answer. Thank you for answering.
You are most welcome.
Thank you for that great question, Dheeraj.
Next
hand up is Sharon Atula. Sharon, please unmute your microphone and say hello to Rusere Jr.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Gentlemen. Thank you,
Hi, Sharon. How are you?
Hi, Langton. Good to hear
I will start
from
by
you.
saying, before Sharon asks a question,
Yeah.
I will tell the group here that Sharon's a very, very dedicated umpire from Uganda. And when I saw her name on the list, I thought, wow, this is pretty good, because I know how much she wants to learn and I know how much she will ask questions, want to grow. And I can tell you now you're in capable hands, because Abdullah and Tom will make sure they help you with all the information you need.
Thank you, Langton, for that. especially introducing me to Mr. Moses and Abdul. So much. Actually, most of the questions that I would probably ask, you answered them to the previous previous people that asked questions. Do you want maybe you to help me out on how you or ask you in your entire 18 years career, have you ever felt like you don't want to do umpiring anymore because you had a bad day, and how did you continue to come back and umpire the next day and being able to inspire even the other people? Because sometimes you come and stand and things don't go the way you expect. And you mentioned what I was actually suffering from is worry about decisions. Thank you so much. That one, I really got it well. You really explained it to my expectation. And so I won't go back to that. But my question is, have you ever felt like you can't come back and umpire anymore? And how did you back yourself up? How can you help? Probably would not have a chance to answer this question or to ask you this question. And how did you go about it up to now? And thank you for representing us up there as Black people. We are proud. Much respect.
Thank you, Sharon. I will tell you that I have games up to now where I go, maybe I'm in the wrong field, because there are moments where umpiring is really tough, and whatever decision you make is bad. I was at the Women's World Cup last year, 2022, where the first half of the tournament, the first 4 games I umpired in, every decision I made that was reviewed, I had to overturn my decision. Every single decision I made in that first 4 games. And I thought to myself, why am I doing this to myself? Why am I even umpiring? But again, because umpiring is one of those jobs that you take up when you enjoy punishment, I decided, hey, I think I like punishing myself enough to come back. And again, it's just a game. And the second thing was because I had a good support network around me, the umpires that I was with, Claire Polosak, Paul Wilson, who else was I with? I can't remember the other 2. And Alex Wolf, and who else? I don't remember. Anyway, if you're around good people, they understand that the umpiring will get tough at points where it shouldn't be, but it will. What you need to do, first of all, Sharon, is make sure you've got people that you talk to about your umpiring. The highs, the lows, they celebrate with you, they understand where you're coming from. It might help if you have an umpire there, because they might understand what you're going through in that support network of yours. And people that don't even know anything about the game. And I told you that my wife is one of the biggest biggest supporter and the biggest support network that I've got. And she's never umpired a day in her life. And she probably doesn't care about umpiring, but she cares about me enough to make sure that I look at the bigger picture. So you will get stuff wrong in a game, sure. But the bigger picture is, 1, you're still alive. 2, you still enjoy it. 3, the sun will be up tomorrow. So it doesn't matter whether you had every decision wrong. You wanted to do good, you didn't. That's life. Nobody died. And this is something that Dennis Burns said to me many years ago. Nobody died, it's just a game. And I used to think, this old man is crazy. But because he's from a psychological background, it started making sense to me the more I started applying that philosophy. That, hey, sure, I made a decision. Sure, it was the wrong decision, but nobody died. It makes you not take things too personally. And I know you take things personally because you care, but don't care too much. I know that's bad advice, but it's also very good advice, because once you start caring too much, you will be afraid to umpire because you go, oh my goodness, this umpire didn't like my decision. This captain didn't like my decision last week. This bowler didn't like my decision in the morning. This batter didn't like my decision whenever. And you will be afraid of making decisions. So once you tell yourself it's just a game, I shouldn't care as much as I do, you probably start making better decisions because you're not afraid of getting decisions wrong. I've gotten to a point where it's okay for me to get decisions wrong. Do I want to get decisions wrong? Of course not. But it's okay because at the end of the day, I've prepared the best I can. I've given myself the best opportunity to get decisions right. Whether I get them right or not is not up to me anymore. I've done what I can do. The rest is not up to me. I hope that helps you.
Yeah, thank you so much. You've really answered it well and given me the courage and maybe other people who are listening. Thank you so much, Mr. Muguruza, for the representation. It's very amazing, and for sure it will be very, very, very grateful to each and everyone who is attending this course. Thank you. All the best.
The last thing I'll say to you and everyone else, Sharon, on that, well, maybe not the last thing, but I think the most important thing that I will say to you is make mistakes and don't worry about making mistakes because you will make them. So the more you're comfortable making mistakes and learning from them, the easier it is for you as you go up to make those mistakes and not make them matter as much. Because once you make them matter as much, the problem is if, say, you make a mistake in the first over of the game, which I've done before, getting to 50 overs will be difficult. Getting to 90 overs in a test match will be difficult because you're dwelling on mistakes. Don't worry about making mistakes. Batters make mistakes. The best of them make mistakes all the time. Virat Kohli will be out on 0 in one game and will score 100 in the next game. Don't worry about it. You are a good umpire. If you believe in your ability, it should carry you through. Don't worry about decisions because that's not all you do in a game. If you think about it, in a 50 over game, there are 600 events that happen in 600 balls, more or less. Mm-hmm. And decision making is just one bit of that. You might have a game where you are hinging everything that happened in 600 events on 2 decisions that you got wrong. But you got 598 things right. You counted well in a game. You move square of the wicket, like Abdullah said, that if it's a left and right, we go square to square. You got the wides right. You counted to 600 balls. You called over. You gave the right guard when a batter asked for leg stump. You gave them the right guard. All those things happened correctly. You got 2 decisions wrong. What are you stressing over? Don't worry. It's just a game at the end of the day.
Thank you so much, Mr. Langton, for that. I'll surely do that. Thank you so much, Mr. Tom, for the opportunity. I really appreciate. Enjoy your evening, gentlemen.
Yeah. Cheers,
awesome
Sharon.
advice, Langton, and great to make your acquaintance, Sharon. Thank you for the kind words. I see we've got Shane Conradi, a former Western Province Cricket Umpires Association umpire who's just joined us. Good evening, Shane. I hope you're well. We're going to take the last hand that is up. It is Suraj. You've been waiting a long time. We're into the super over now. Please unmute your microphone. The floor is yours to address Langton.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tom. Good evening to everyone, and yeah, hi. Thank you very much to Abdullah for taking us through the presentations. Yes, it was nice to hear from Langton as well. I would not forget your birthday because it's Mahendra Singh Dhoni's birthday. I'm from India. Okay, yeah, I have actually quite a few questions, 3 questions in particular, but with the interest of time, I'll stick to one. Maybe I'll ask the other ones tomorrow. Langton, maybe just give me some tips on 4th umpiring roles because I've got matches as 4th umpire.
Right. 4th umpiring is the hardest and easiest job out there. It is the easiest job to screw up in cricket. What I encourage people to do when they're 4th umpires is just ask yourself a question that, what would I expect if I am on field? So what you want to do as a fourth umpire is take the pressure off the on-field umpires so that they don't have the peripheral stuff to worry about. If they don't have to worry about pitch markings and the field dimensions, all of that being sorted, those stumps being pitched correctly, batters' equipment being right, you've taken half the worry from them. All they have to worry about is the stuff that happens from the minute the first ball is bowled, and the rest is not up to them. What you also need to think about as a fourth umpire, for example, is if you're umpiring, you're on field, you are thinking, is the score on the scoreboard correct? As fourth umpire, you want to make sure that you're taking that worry away from the umpire so that they focus again on the stuff that happens in the game itself. So you make sure that the scoreboard is running correctly. You're checking with whoever is scoring to make sure that they're helping you to make sure the scores are correct on the scoreboard. If there is a scoreboard at the ground, you're working with the curator to make sure that during the breaks, the lines are remarked so the umpires don't have to worry about stumpings and all of that without markings, and to make sure that they don't worry about no balls not being given or being given wrongly because the lines are not marked. So you go at drinks breaks, let's remark. You're also thinking, if there's a super over, Tom mentioned it to super over right now. If there's a super over, what's meant to happen next? The on-field umpires are already on the field. You take over the responsibility of making sure teams are ready for the super over, making sure balls are where they're supposed to be. So you make sure from first innings, you've got the balls on the side somewhere. You don't mix them with the balls for the second innings. Oh, well, the replacement balls. You also make sure whoever's coming in to bat in the super over is ready for when there is the super over, because you start doing this, say, maybe 2 overs before the final ball is bowled. You go, we could have a super over. So you're thinking like you're on field and going, what could worry me if I'm on field? Then you take that worry away from the on-field umpire. I don't know if that helps in any way.
Yes, Langton, that helped very much. Can I ask one more question if I can, Tom?
I'm sure you can. I don't know. That's up to Tom.
There are 2 overs in the super over, so the second over of the super over is up.
Yeah, sure. So one more question is, what is the ideal place to be at throughout the match? Because the dugouts might be at opposite ends or quite far away, and pavilion might be at one place, and umpire's room might be at one place, and the side screen might be somewhere else. So what is the ideal position, considering the fact that we have these concepts of timeout and impact players? Which again are the responsibilities of fourth umpire, right, to handle during the match?
You're probably in the best place or best country for you to be a fourth umpire, and that's India, right? And what I would say to you is what you want to do as a fourth umpire. Fourth umpiring is the best role to make relationships with players. So what you want to do as a fourth umpire is be closest to the dugout where the batting side's going to be, because those are the subs that you want to be dealing with more than the subs from the fielding team, because they're the ones that you tell if they're going to bring on gloves, water, anything for the batters. Those are the ones you're talking to. And use that opportunity as a fourth umpire when you're around the players in the dugout to just create a relationship with them. You're not just there as an umpire. You are there as a human being, as a person. So once they connect with you as a person, it'll be easier for you to deal with them next time. Hopefully you'll be on field and they're also playing. They'll go, we know this person. We've created a relationship with this person. It's easier to work with them there because you've already built some sort of rapport with them when you are a fourth umpire. So I think the best thing that can happen to anyone is to be a fourth umpire to start with, because you make the relationship, you build a relationship with players there, and then they see you umpiring later on. So as a fourth umpire, create relationships, sit with the batting team or close to the batting team's dugout, talk to the subs when you can during the break, when you go on field to watch the pitch when it's being rolled and all that. what you also do is give yourself an opportunity to think like you're umpiring. And what I mean by that is during the break, teams will warm up. Go and watch them warm up. Stand when bowlers are bowling. Watch what they're doing. You're not under pressure, but you're going, oh, this bowler is bowling this way, that way. If I'm standing here, this is what I'm seeing. This guy is going over the line. If you can have a word with them that, you're sort of going over the line. Do you want me to call no balls? You're practicing. They're also practicing. So there's no pressure on you, but people will go, this guy is someone that we can work with. You will need those relationships when players are being difficult, because you can go back to that and go, come on, I thought we're this sort of relationship. What's happening? So I've been fortunate that I've been a fourth umpire for a very, very long time. And I've built relationships with players when I was a fourth umpire, which is now helping me now when I have to be on field with the same players. I'll give an example. The first time I met Yuzvendra Chahal, I was a fourth umpire. When I debuted, he debuted as well. He was a sub. I was a sub for the umpires. We debuted in the same match, and I think we've got a good relationship together. And when I umpire him, he's one person that I can actually feel comfortable around, because I know if he's going to be a problem, not that it is, I know how to deal with him. Does that help?
Yes, Langton, very much. Like great, wonderful insights actually. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'll keep these things
You are
in
most
mind.
welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time. I hope you will be around for all the sessions as well.
I hope so. I don't know. Let's see.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed the
And
session
all the
today.
best in your fourth umpiring duties coming up.
Thank you so much, Tom, Langton.
Thanks for the questions, Suraj. I think great insight. We hardly ever cover fourth umpires in our courses, so that's brilliant insight for all the candidates to take away with tonight. Langton, the invite is open. I think you said you weren't available for one or two of the lectures, but for the rest, you are most welcome to join us. I'm going to take one question from the chat box. There were a few questions in the chat box, but you've answered pretty much all of them except this one from Ivan. How do we get better as umpires? What platforms are there for umpires to improve their craft once they qualify for level 1, for example?
I will, without making this seem like, well, it is for me the best platform for people to learn from. And I spoke to you when you were in Aradia that I started hearing about this and knowing about what you guys are doing in the Western Cape during COVID. And I thought this was the best thing that's ever happened for umpires. And I encourage people to use the networks around them, because you can only improve with what you are surrounding yourself with. They say, tell me who you spend the most time with and I'll tell you who you are. This is, I think, one of the best things that's happened for umpires and umpiring in the world. And I would encourage everyone to keep using this platform, not just for the exams, but also for making sure that they learn. And I will tell you, when Abdullah was talking about some laws, I actually had to go back to them and go, hang on, oh, that's what the law says, because I'm umpiring cricket where I don't actually have to think about laws, but I have to think about playing conditions. And I actually learned a lot today, and that reinforced stuff that I'd forgotten and stuff that I never had to think about. Because if you think about the cricket I'm umpiring now, I don't have to worry about if I'm going to be a replacement umpire, I should only stand at square leg. I don't think about that, because I know if I'm a replacement umpire, I'm taking part in the game as much as the other guy that was umpiring was. You probably know, well, some guys here would know what happened in Sri Lanka now, where one of the umpires couldn't finish a game. He umpired on day 1 and he couldn't umpire the game. The guy who came in didn't umpire the 4 days, and he's now test umpire number 500. And he didn't even think about the fact that he was only going to umpire at square leg, because in the cricket he was umpiring, you don't worry about that. But it's in the laws. And you go, oh, that's what the law says. And that's something that that was reinforced today when Abdullah was talking about law 2. And this, for me, is one of the best ways people can learn. So I would encourage everyone to use this resource, use these people, Abdullah and Tom, and all the people on the call, if you've got context for them, learn from them as much as you can. I don't know if it works for you guys, but something that I was thinking about while we were on the call is, do you guys have some sort of support for people after the training? Because the training is not the easy bit, but it's the start of something. Can there not be some sort of network where you guys can go, whether it's a WhatsApp group, whether it's a call for people after they're done with their level 2 or level 3, and you said the last exam is only for South African. But when people are umpiring, they can have some sort of platform. I'm actually asking you to have that sort of platform where people can go, I experienced this in my game. How do we handle this? Because the training side is for the exam, but when people start umpiring, there probably isn't anyone who supports them in the world. And since you started this, is there an opportunity for you to have a support network for people on the call who will then become umpires after they start after they pass and start umpiring, to go, I experienced this in a game. How do we handle this?
Yeah, thanks, Langton. Look, it's been an amazing journey since 2020 when we started this online lecturing for level 1, 2, and 3 courses. And as you mentioned, our footprint has grown from Cape Town to the rest of Western Province, to the rest of South Africa, to the rest of Africa, and into the world. So we're really proud of what we've achieved, and it fills us with so much joy and pride when we see the umpires that we've trained progress in their particular levels in their particular countries. And we built relationships mainly through WhatsApp, really. That is the easiest platform, I think, for communicating. And we do have umpires who still contact us after their games, WhatsApping about a problem they had, an issue they had, or a law or a playing condition that came up and they weren't sure exactly how to apply it. So it's not a formal structure yet. Maybe it's something that we can and should put in place in a formal manner. We'll definitely think about it and take it on board. So thanks for the suggestion. We're always looking to improve, not just the umpiring levels across the world, but in how we deliver our training and services to all our candidates. So definitely taking that piece of advice on board. Langton, I'd like to close our question and answer session with you by reading a message in the chat box from Enesi from Nigeria, who you know very well. He says, hi, Langton, just so you know, I love you, my brother, for fine-tuning my umpiring, for pushing me to strive to being my best self as an umpire. And I think that speaks to what you mentioned earlier about we're not competing against any other umpire. We're competing against our former selves to be better tomorrow than what we were yesterday.
Yeah. Oh, that's very kind of NSC to say. And I enjoyed working with him last week in Dar es Salaam. That was fun. And it's good to see how he's grown over the years. I first saw him last year. We've been talking for about 2.5, 3 years now. But it's amazing to see how he's taken his umpiring from where he was when I first saw him umpiring last year to where he is now. And I hope to see everyone on this call take their umpiring to the next level, because when they get better, it pushes people that are above them to try to get better as well. And it improves umpires and umpiring all over the world. So I'm happy to hear that he's doing well. And I will say to you in closing, you and Abdullah are doing an amazing job. And I'm very excited about what you guys are doing. And I look forward to seeing what you guys are going to do in the future, because I know you can only do more than what you're doing, because you've done so much for African umpires. You've done so much for Western Cape. And I know now you're going to do so much more for world umpiring, because you are now reaching the world. So keep doing what you're doing and keep supporting, helping, developing umpires all over.
Awesome, will do. Thank you
you
so
very
much
much.
for the kind words and your time, Langton. Now we're going to go through the rest of the messages in the chat box, taking admin and law questions. First question is from Esther Prinsloo. Will the PowerPoint be sent to us afterwards? So I have sent the PowerPoint presentation as a WeTransfer download link to everybody who I have their email addresses. If you have not received a course material email from me, then please either put your email address in the chat box, or you can email training@wpcua.co.za if you want to keep your email address confidential, and I from there will send you the course material email, which contains a link to the WeTransfer download of the entire presentation. There's only one presentation. We're going to use it for all 6 lectures. The 7th lecture will have a revision presentation, which we will send to you before the 7th lecture. Next question is from Biraj. It's actually a comment. He says the ICC also provide the foundation course for umpiring for free. That is correct, Biraj. That was launched a couple of weeks ago. And if you all go to the ICC website, icc-cricket.com, you will find a link to how to register onto the education and training section of the ICC, the International Cricket Council, and from there you can do the ICC Umpiring Foundation course, which is completely online and it's completely free. And as mentioned, after that, you can find out from your country's development officer when there will be a level 1 course in your country. But as mentioned, our level 1, 2, and 3 courses, I think, as far as I know, are the only fully online courses and exams across the world for level 1, 2, and 3 umpiring. Biraj asks, is this class helpful for us here in India? I did address that a little bit at the beginning of the lecture. So I'm not going to repeat everything I said. What I will add is that if you are applying for a job, Biraj, the more qualifications you have, the better your chances of getting the job. So that is my answer to that question. Diraviam asks if he or she is able to pay in euros. Diraviam, we only use 2 payment methods. The one is electronic funds transfer from a South African bank account to our South African bank account, Western Province Cricket Umpires Association. The other one is PayPal, and PayPal uses any credit card or a debit card with a chip from anywhere across the world. So you will be paying $30 US, but you can use a credit card or a debit card that has euros in it, and PayPal will do the transfer of currencies for you. Esther asks, how many attempts do we get during the exam period? I did mention that the exam window period is 10 days from the 4th to the 14th of September. You get a maximum of 5 attempts for getting the pass mark of 80%. If you achieve the pass mark of 80% on your first attempt or your second attempt or your third attempt or your fourth attempt, you do not get further attempts to try and improve your mark. That will be the end of the exam for you once you have achieved the pass mark of 80%. Diraj asks, What is the average time span to move from level 1 until you get to the cutoff for Kaya Majola at age 42? And then apart from clearing exams, are there requirements of number of matches that one needs to umpire before moving to each level? So I will answer the first question. What is the average time span to move from level 1 to Kaya Majola? So Shane, you were with me for my first Kaya Majola week in 2011 here in Cape Town. I started umpiring in 2007, so it took me 4 years to get from level 1 to Kaya Majola Coke Week. It took Abdullah, I think, 2 or 3 years to get to that level, and it would have taken Langton a different span of time as well. There is no set timeline. Every umpire has their own journey. Yes, first-class cricket players do tend to be fast-tracked through the system. So if you have played first-class cricket in your country, whether it's in India or South Africa, Australia or England, the umpiring associations tend to fast-track you through the system if you are a good umpire. The reasoning behind the fast tracking is that players who have played at the highest level or at first class level, they know that the pressures that umpires at those levels are under, and they know what is expected of umpires at that level. And they do handle the pressure at that level, or at least they are used to the pressure at that level more than myself and Abdullah, who have only played club cricket in Cape Town. Next question from Diraj is, does each country have different age restriction like the 42 years age restriction for Cricket South Africa? Diraj, I am sure each country has got their different age restrictions. I'm not aware of the different age restrictions in different countries. You'll have to find out in the country that you are in. I'm scrolling through the rest of the chat box to find out if there are any more admin or law-related questions. Remember that the lecture has been recorded and will be posted on our YouTube channel a couple of hours after the end of this lecture. Is the law book available as a soft copy? Asks Zihad. Yes, sorry, Zahid. Yes, Zahid. In my course material email, I do attach a link to download a PDF of the latest version of the law book. So hopefully you've got that email from me. If you don't, then either put your email address in the chat box or email training@wpcua.co.za requesting the course material email to be sent to you. And thank you, Langton, for also directing Zahid to the MCC laws on the MCC website. Mujib asks, can I get this book? Mujib, as far as I know, the book itself is not on sale, definitely not in South Africa. I'm not sure about the rest of the world. The Umpires Association closest to you should have law books available, and us in Cape Town, we distribute these law books to our members. So you need to be a member of Western Province Cricket Umpires Association to get a hard copy of the latest law book. Abdullah, this is a law question for you. In a one-day game, do umpires change ends at the end of an innings, or do they stay the whole day on one end? So let's imagine the Cape Cobras are playing against the Natal Dolphins at Newlands Cricket Ground. I start the match standing at the Wynberg end, which is the south end of the ground, and you are standing at the Calvin Grove end, which is the north end of the ground. And the Cape Cobras bat first for their 50 overs. Do we swap ends at lunchtime, or do we stay for the second innings when the KwaZulu-Natal Dolphins are batting on the same ends?
No, Tom, in 50 over cricket or 20 over cricket, we do not swap ends. If I started at the Wynberg end in the first innings, I'll stand at the Wynberg end. After the 50 overs are completed, in the second innings, I will stay at the Wynberg end. It is only in more-day cricket. An example is Test match cricket, where you do change ends. In the first innings, let's say I start at the Wynberg end. After the first innings of Team B is completed, only then will we swap ends, where I will now go to the Calvin Grove end and you will now come to the Wynberg end after the completion of the first innings of both sides. Over, Tom.
Thanks, Dula. Ivan asks or requests us to please create a tutorial video explaining umpire signals. Very good idea, Ivan. If you do go onto YouTube, there are quite a few other channels who have tutorial videos explaining umpire signals, but that's probably one video that we are missing in our library. So I think when the weather warms up a little bit here in Cape Town, we'll find a nice sunny day to record some signals and put them on our YouTube channel in the next month or so. Moving on through the chat box, I am skipping those questions that have been answered by Langton. Ivan de Jong asks about mental preparation, and Langton did touch on that. And then we get all the various countries and cities that people are in. Great to see people as far afield as Finland, Canada, Zim, UK, Uganda, and India. Right, another law question for you, Abdullah. In a test match, if the ball is lost, for example, in the 79th over, will the new ball be taken, or will a similar ball first be selected and the new ball only taken after the 80th over?
So here we get guided by the law.
Maijan.
Yeah. Yes, Tom.
Apologies. No? Go ahead.
Maijan, we get guided by the law. The law tells us that in a game, in a more-day game, and let's use test match as an example, you are allowed to take the new ball, but you can only take the new ball after 80 overs have been bowled. So in your example, 79 overs have only been bowled, and if the ball needs to be replaced, you need to go to the box of replacement balls, find the replacement ball. But let's say it needed the replacing of the 79.3 overs. So you find the replacement ball, they need to bowl 3 balls with the replacement ball, and if the fielding captain wants the ball to be changed, or he wants to take the new ball, then only after 80 overs, if he wants to, if he or she wants to, they then can take up the option of taking a new ball. Over, Tom.
Thanks, Dula. I've scanned through the rest of the chat box and we have addressed all of those questions. I see a lot of email addresses for me to send the course material email to, which I will do so straight after this lecture. Last question in the chat box is from Navneeth. If I have a level 2 qualification in Canada, can I write level 3 directly in South Africa? Yes, you may, Navneeth. We have actually just completed our level 3 course last night was the second exam day sitting. Candidates wrote either on Saturday morning South African time or Monday night, level 3. We only have level 2 once a year. That was in May this year, and level 3 once a year. That was just completed yesterday. So unfortunately, you'll have to wait for level 3 next year in August. July lectures and August exam for you to write Cricket South Africa's level 3 exam. But why not get a extra qualification and do level 1 with us now and level 2 with us in May next year, and then join us for level 3 in August 2024. I want to take this opportunity, as we've reached the end of the questions in the chat box and there are no hands up, to thank you all for your participation and your interaction during what has ended up a 3.5-hour lecture instead of 2 hours. That's always a good sign that the juices were flowing and the umpires were wanting to umpire. We always say that we must promote more cricket, and I will leave our member Shane Conradi to wish us all good night. Thank you very much for joining us, Shane. Lovely to see you. And you can close off the meeting for us as you used to do as an executive committee member a few years ago.
Hi, good evening, gents. Tom and Abdullah, nice seeing you guys again. It's just by chance that I saw it on Facebook and you invited me to join your podcast. So yeah, I'm in it. Just on, if I may, just take 2 minutes.
Sure.
There's been, I've observed that a lot of them are saying it's a job. I think when you are pursuing a career, and we must take it as that it's a career and you're going to be remunerated for it, for something that you love doing. So that's going to be very important. I also heard that about the pressures from family pressures and that type of thing. Now, Abdullah's dad he's got a soccer team of children, and he handles it so well, right? It's because first of all, his wife enjoys the game as well. Me, myself,
Is it Shane that's freezing or is it me that's freezing?
No, it's Shane that's freezing, Tom.
That we go there prepared. Right?
Shane, maybe
so you
just
go on
switch
to
your camera off for network purposes. We'll all switch our cameras off, and hopefully that will improve our connectivity.
That's pretty bad, yeah. I think that's bad. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's much better, Shane. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, so your mental preparation already starts not on the morning of the game, but it's already starting a few days before, say the Thursday, if you start standing the Saturday. So you start mentally preparing your bag, ensure that you've got all your equipment in there that you need for on the Saturday morning. Check that your shoes are all right, your laces is all right, and your trousers, everything is clean. That when you take that field, that you look like an umpire, at least. And then the other thing I'm going to close off now is, for us as umpires, is to don't be caught out on law. LBW decisions and wides, we can make mistakes on that. But don't be caught out on law. That is where you got to know everything. You have all your ducks in a row. But to Tom, Abdullah, and Langton, and the rest of you guys that's young and pursuing your careers as an umpires, all the best for you, and may you continue to enjoy what you do, and see it as that, and the money part is a bonus, is an extra bonus before you become professional. So see it as that, and don't put money before the love of the game. So thank you for that, guys.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the words of inspiration and encouragement, Shane. And I hope to see you for the rest of the lectures. I will share the links with you. You've got no excuse. To everybody else, thank you again for your participation and your interaction. We will convene again on Thursday, same time, same place, different link. I will share it with you on Wednesday so that you've got plenty of time to check that the link works, and we shall see you then again for, I think, laws 6 to 12, if I'm not mistaken. Have a good evening further. Stay safe. Keep well. Thank you and good night.